the whistling pine trees so that they bent and twisted, as if bowing to a dusty ghost. Their leaves and branches make the same sound as a football referee whistled. The car were parked in the driveway, doors and boot open, waiting to be loaded. Papa would drive the Mercedes, with Mama in the front seat and Jaja and me in the back. Kelvin would drive the factory car with Sisi and the factory driver. Sunday, who usually stood when Kelvin took his yearly 1 week leave, would drive the Volvo. Papa stood by the hibiscuses, giving direction, one hand stuck in the pocket of his white tunic, while the other pointed from items to the car. The suitcases go in the Mercedes, and those vegetables also. The yams will go in the Peugeot 505, with the cases of Remy Martin and cartons of Jew. See if the sack of Okpo Roko will fit it too. The bag of rice and gari and beans and the plantain go in the Volvo. There was a lot to pack, and Adomu came over from the gate to help Sunday and Kelvin. The yam alone, white tuber the size of young poppies, filled the boot of the Peugeot 505, and even the front seat of the Volvo had a bag of beans slanting across it, like a passenger who had fallen asleep. Kelvin and Sunday drove off first, and we followed, so that if the soldiers at the roadblock stopped them, he would see and stop too. Papa started the rosary before we drove out of our gate street. He stopped at the end of the first decade so Mama could continue the next set of 10 Hail Mary. Jaja led the next decade. When it was my turn, Papa took his time driving. The expressway was a single lane, and when we got behind a lorry, he stayed put, muttering that the roads were unsafe, that the people in Abuja had stolen all the money meant for making the expressway dual carriage. Many cars horned and overtook us. Some were so full of Christmas yam and bag of rice and crate of soft drink that their boots almost grazed the road. At ninth mile, Papa stopped to buy bread and okpa. Hawkers descended on our car, pulling boiled egg, roasted cashew nut, bottled water, bread, okpa, agidi into every window of the car, chanting, "Buy from me, I will sell well to you," or "Look at me, I am the one you are looking for." Although Papa bought only bread and okpa wrapped in hot banana leaves, he gave a 20 naira note to each of those hawkers, and their "Thank you, sir, God bless you" chants echoed in my ears as we drove off and approached Aba. The green "Welcome to Aba Town" sign that led off the expressway would have been easy to miss because it was so small. Papa turned onto the dirty road, and soon I heard the screech of the low underbell of the Mercedes scraping the bumpy, sun-baked, dirty road. As we drove past, people waved and called out Papa's title, Omelora. Moat and thatch huts stood close to 3-story houses that nestled behind ornate metal gates. Naked and semi-naked children played with limb balls. Men sat on bench beneath trees, drinking palm wine from corn husks and cloudy glass mug. The car was coated in dust by the time we got to the wide black gate of our country home. 3 elderly men standing under the lone ukwa tree near our gate waved and shouted, Unonu, have you come back? We will come in soon to say welcome." Our gate man threw the gate open. "Thank you, Lord, for journey mercy," Papa said as he drove into the compound, crossing himself. "Amen," we said. Our house still look my breath away. Our house still took my breath away. The four-story white majesty of it, with the spouting fountain in front and the coconut tree flickering it on both sides and the orange tree dotting the front yard. Three little boys rushed into the compound to greet Papa. They had been chasing our car down the dirty road. Laura, good afternoon, sir, they chorused. They wore only shorts, and each one's belly button was the size of a small balloon. Kedunu, Papa gave them each 10 naira from a wad of note he pulled out of his hole all. Greet your parents. Make sure you show them this money. Yes, sir. Thanks, sir. They dash out of the compound, laughing loudly. Kelvin and Sunday unpacked the foodstuff, while Jaja and I unpacked the suitcase from the Mercedes. Mama went to the backyard with Sisi to put away the cast iron cooking tripod. Our food will be cooked on the gas cooker inside the kitchen, but the metal tripod would balance the big pot that would cook rice and stew and soup for visitors. Some of the pots were big enough to feed a whole goat. Mama and Sisi hardly did any of that cooking. They simply stayed around and provided more salt, more Maggi cubes, more utensils, because the wives of the members of our Umuna came over to do the cooking. They wanted Mama to rest, they said, after the stress of the city, and every year they took the leftover, the fat pieces of meat, the rice and beans, the bottle of soft drinks and maltina and beer home with them afterward. We were always prepared to feed the whole village at Christmas, always prepared so that none of the people who came in would leave without eating and drinking to what Papa called a reasonable level of satisfaction. Papa's title was Laura, after all, the one who does for the community. But it was not only Papa who received visitors. The villagers trooped to every big house with a big gate, and sometimes they took plastic bowl with fame covers. It was Christmas. Jaja and I were upstairs unpacking when Mama came in and said, Adekoka came by with his family to wish us a Merry Christmas. They are on their way to Lagos. Come downstairs and greet them. Adekoka was a small, round, laughing man. Every time I saw him, I tried to imagine him writing those editorials in the Standard. I tried to imagine him defying the soldiers, and I could not. He looked like a stuffed doll, and because he was always smiling, the deep dimples in his pillow looked like permanent fixtures, as though someone had stuck a stick into his cheeks. Even his glasses looked dullish. They were thicker than window louveries, tinted a strange bluish shade, and framed in white plastic. He was throwing his baby, a perfect round copy of himself, in the air when he came in. His little daughter was standing close to him, asking him to throw her in the air too. Jaja, Camille, how are you? He said, and before we could reply, he laughed his tingling laugh and, gesturing to the babies, said, you know, they said the higher you throw them when they are young, the more likely they are to learn how to fly. The baby goggled, showing pink gums, and each out for his father's glasses. Adekoka tilted his head back, threw the baby up again. His wife, Yawande, hugged us, asked how we were, then slapped Adekoka's shoulder playfully and took the baby from him. I watched her and remember her loud, choking cries to Papa. Do you like coming to the village? Adekoka asked us. We looked at Papa at the same time. He was on the sofa reading a Christmas card and smiling. Yes, we said. You like coming to this bush place? His eyes widened theatrically. Do you have friends here? No, we said. So what do you do in this back of beyond then? He teased. Jaja and I smiled and said nothing. They are always so quiet, he said, turning to Papa. So quiet. They are not like those loud children people are raising these days, with no home training and no fear of God, Papa said, and I was certain that it was pride that stretched Papa's lip and lightened his eyes. Imagine what the standard would be if you were all quiet. It was a joke. Ada Koka was laughing. So was his wife Yawande. But Papa did not laugh. Jaja and I turned and went back upstairs silently. The rustling of the coconut front woke me up. Outside our high gate, I could hear goat blaring and cock crowing, and people yelling greetings across mud compound walls. Good morning. How you wake up, eh? Did you rise well? Good morning. Did the people of your house rise well, oh? I reached out to slide open my bedroom window to hear the sound better and to let in the clean air tinged with goats dropping and ripping oranges. Jaja tapped on my door before he came into my room. Our room adjoined. Back in Enugu, they were far apart. Are you up? He asked. Let's go down for prayer before Papa called us. I tied my wrapper, which I had used as a light cover in the warm night, over my night dress, knotted it under my arm, and followed Jaja downstairs. The wide passage made our house feel like a hotel, as did the impersonal smell of doors kept locked most of the years. The unused bathroom and kitchen and toilet of uninhabited rooms. We used only the ground floor and the first floor. The other two were last used years ago when Papa was made a chief and took his Omelora title. The member of Umuna had urged him for so long, even when he was still a manager at the Leventis and had not bought the first factory, to take a title. He was wealthy enough, they insisted. Besides, nobody among our Umuna had taken a title. So when Papa finally decided to, after extensive talk with the parish priest and insisting that all undertone be moved from the title-taking ceremony, it was like a mini New Yam festival. Cars had taken off every inch of the dirt road running through Aba. The third and fourth floor had swarmed with people. Now I went up there only when I wanted to see farther than the road just outside our compound wall. Papa is hosting a church council meeting today, Jaja said. I heard him telling Mama. What time is the meeting? Before noon. And with his eyes he said, we can spend time together then. In Aba, Jaja and Camille had no schedules. We talked more and sat alone in our roomless. Papa was too busy entertaining the endless stream of visitors and attending church council meeting at 5 in the morning and town council meeting until midnight. Or maybe it was because Papa was different, because people strolled into our compound at will, because the very air we breathed moved more slowly. Papa and Mama were in one of the small living rooms that led off the main living room downstairs. Good morning, Papa. Good morning, Mama. Jaja and I said. How are you both? Papa asked. Fine, we said. Papa looked bright-eyed. He must have been awake for hours. He was flipping through his Bible, the Catholic version with the Deuteronomical books, bound in a shiny black leather. Mama looked sleepy. She rubbed her crusty eyes as she asked if we had slept well. I could hear voices from the main living room. Girls arrived with down here. When we had made the sign of the cross and got down on our knees, round the table, someone knocked on the door. A middle-aged man in a very threadbare t-shirt peeked in. Omelora, the man said in a forceful tone, people use when they call others by their title. I am leaving now. I want to see if I can buy a few things for my children at Abagana. He spoke English with an Igbo accent so strong it decorated even the shortest words with extra vowels. Papa liked it when the village made an effort to speak English around him. He said it showed they had good sense. Ogbonam Bala, Baba said, wait for me. I am praying with my family. I want to give you a little something for the children. You will always share my tea and bread with me. Hey, Omelera, thanks, sir. I have not drank milk since this year. The man still hovered at the door. Perhaps he imagined that leaving would make Papa's promise of tea with milk disappeared. Obenambala, go and sit down and wait for me. The man retreated. Papa read from the Psalms before saying Our Father, the Hail Mary, the Glory Be, and the Apostle Creed. Although we spoke aloud after Papa said the first few words along, an outer silence enveloped us, shrouding us. But when he said, we will now pray to the Spirit in our own words, for the Spirit intercedes for us in accordance to his will. The silence was broken. Our voice sounded loud, discordant. Mama started with a prayer for peace and for the rulers of our country. Jaja prayed for peace and for the religion. I prayed for the Pope. Finally, for 20 minutes, Papa prayed for our protection from ungodly people and forces, for Nigeria and the godless men ruling it, and for us to continue to grow in righteousness. Finally, he prayed for the conversion of our Papa-Unukwa, so that Papa-Unukwa will be saved from hell. Papa said, sometimes describing hell, as if God did not know that the flames were internal and raging and fierce. At the end, we raised our voices and said, Amen. Papa closed the Bible. Camille and Jaja, you will go this afternoon to your grandfather's house and greet him. Kelvin will take you. Better don't touch any food. Don't drink anything. And as usual, you will stay no longer than 15 minutes. 15 minutes. Yes, Papa. We had this every Christmas for the past few years, ever since we had started to visit Papa-Unukwa. Papa-Unukwa had called an Umuna meeting to complain to the extended family that he did not know his grandchildren and we did not know him. Papa-Unukwa had told Jaja Amadi, as Papa did not tell us much things. Papa-Unukwa had told the Umuna how Papa had offered to build him a house, buy him a car, and hire him a driver, as long as he converted and threw away the chin in the thatched shrine in his yard. Papa-Unukwa laughed and said he simply wanted to see his grandchildren when he could. He would not throw away his chi. He had already told Papa this many times. The members of the Umuna sided with Papa. They always did, but they urged him to let us visit Papa-Unukwa to greet him, because every man who was old enough to be called grandfather deserved to be greeted by his grandchildren. Papa himself never greeted Papa-Unukwa, never visited him, but he sent slim weight of naira through Kelvin or through one of our Umuna members, slimmer weight than he gave Kelvin as a Christmas bonus. I don't like to send you to the home of a heathen, but God will protect you, Papa said. He put the Bible in a drawer and then pulled Jaja and me to his side, gently rubbing the side of our arm. Yes, Papa. He went into the large living room. I could hear more voices, more people coming to say, Unnu Ununu and complain about how hard life was, how they would not buy new clothes for their children this Christmas. You and Jaja can have breakfast upstairs. I will bring the things up. Your father will eat with the guests, Mama said. Let me help you, I offered. No, Nne, go upstairs, stay with your brother. I watched Mama walk towards the kitchen. In her limping gait, her braided hair was piled into a net that trapped to a glove ball-like lump at the end, like a Father Christmas hat. She looked tired. Papa-Unukwa lived close by. We can just walk there in 5 minutes. We don't need Kelvin to take us, Jaja said, as we went back upstairs. He said that every year, but we always climb into the car so that Kelvin would take us, so that he would watch us. Kelvin drove us out of the compound. Later that morning, I turned to allow my eyes to stroke once again the gleaming white walls and pillars of our house, the perfect silver-colored white eggs the fountain made. Papa-Unukwa had never set foot in it, because when Papa had decreed that heating were not allowed in his compound, he had not made an exception for his father. Your father said you are to stay 15 minutes, Kelvin said, as he parked on the roadside near Papa-Unukwa's thatch-enclosed compound. I stared at the scars on Kelvin's neck. Before I got out of the car, he had fallen from a palm tree in his hometown in the Niger Delta area. A few years ago, while on vacation, the scar ran from the center of his head to the nape of his neck. It was shaped like a dagger. We know, Jaja said. Jaja swung open Papa-Unukwa cracking wood gate, which was so narrow that Papa might have to enter sideways if he ever were to visit. The compound was barely a quarter of the size of our backyard in Enugu. 2 goats and a few chickens strutted around, nibbling and pecking at drying stems of grass. The house that stood in the middle of the compound was small, compact like dice, and it was hard to imagine Papa and Auntie Ifeoma growing up here. It looked just like the pictures of houses I used to draw in kindergarten. A square house with a box door at the center and 2 windows on each side. The only difference was that Papa-Unukwa's house had a veranda, which was bounded by a rusty metal bar. The first time Jaja and I visited, I had walked in looking for the bathroom, and Papa-Unukwa had laughed and pointed at the outhouse, a closet-sized building up on painted cement block with a mass of entwined palm frond pulled across the gaping entrance. I had examined him that day, too, looking away when his eyes met mine for signs of difference, of godlessness. I didn't see any, but I was sure they were there somewhere. They had to be. Papa-Unukwa was sitting on a low stool on the veranda, bowls of food on a raffia mat before him. He rose as we came in. A wrap was slung across his body and tied behind his neck, over a once white singlet now browned by age and yellowed at the armpit. Neke, Kambli and Jaja have come to greet their old father, he said. Although he was stood with age, it was easy to see how tall he once had been. He took Jaja's hand and hugged him. I pressed half myself to him a moment longer, gently holding my breath because of the strong, unpleasant smell of cassava that clutched to him. Come and eat, he said, gesturing to the raffia mat. The enamel bowl contained of flaky fufu and watery soup, bereft of chalk of fish and meat. It was accustomed to ask, but Papa-Unukwa expected us to say no. His eyes twinkled with mischief. No, thanks, sir, we said. We sat on the wood bench next to him. I leaned back and rested my head on a wooden window shutter, which had parallel opening running across them. I heard that you came in yesterday, he said, his lower lip quiver, as did his voice, and sometimes I understand him in a moment or two after he spoke, because his dialect was ancient. His speech had none of the angelicized inflections that ours had. Yes, Jaja, Camille, you are so grown up now. Arrive, Agboho. Soon the suitors will start to come, he said, teasing. His left eye was going blind and was covered by a film, the color and consistency of diluted milk. I smiled as he stretched out to pat my shoulder. The 8 spots that dotted his hand stood out because they were too much lighter than his oil-colored complexion. Papa-Unukwa, are you well? How is your body? Jaja asked. Papa-Unukwa shrugged, as if to say there was a lot that was wrong, but he had no choice. I am well, my son. What can an old man do but be well until he join his ancestors? He paused to mold a lump of fufu with his finger. I watched him, the smile on his face, the easy way he threw the molded muzzle out towards the garden, where perched halfway in the high breeze, asking Annie, the gods of the land, to eat with him. My legs ached often. Your Auntie Ifeoma bring me medicine when she can put the money together, but I am an old man. If it is not my leg that ache, it will be my hands. Will Auntie Ifeoma and her children come back this year? I asked. Papa-Unukwa scratched at the stubborn white tuft that clung to his bare head. I expect them tomorrow. They did not come last year, Jaja said. Ifeoma could not afford it. Papa-Unukwa shook his head. Since the father of the 4 children died, she had seen hard times, but she will bring them this year. You will see them. It is not right that you don't know them well, your cousins. It is not right. Jaja and I said nothing. Nothing. We did not know Auntie Ifeoma or her children very well, because she and Papa had quarreled about Papa-Unukwa. Mama had told us Auntie Ifeoma stopped speaking to Papa after he barred Papa-Unukwa from coming to his house, and a few years passed before they finally started speaking to each other. If I had meat in my soup, Papa-Unukwa said, I would offer it to you. It's all right, Papa-Unukwa, Jaja said. Papa-Unukwa took his time, swallowed his food. I watched the food slide down his throat, struggling to get past his sagging Adam's apple, which pushed out of his neck like a wrinkled knot. There was no drink beside him, not even water. That child that helped me, Chin Yellow, will come in soon. I will send him to go and buy soft drink for you two from the Iche's shop, he said. No, Papa-Unukwa, thanks, sir, Jaja said. Nsukka, I know your father will not let you eat here because I offer my food to our ancestors. But soft drink also. Do I not buy that from the store as everyone else does? Papa-Unukwa, we just ate before we came here, Jaja said. If we were thirsty, we would drink in your house. Papa-Unukwa smiled. His teeth were yellowed and widely spaced because of the many he had lost. You have spoken well, my son. You are my father, Ogbifi, Olieke. Come back, he spoke with wisdom. I stared at the fufu on the enamel plate, which was chipped of its leaves green color at the edges. I imagined the fufu, dried to crust by the harmattan wind, stretching the inside of Papa-Unukwa's throat as he swallowed. Jaja nudged me, but I did not want to leave. I wanted to stay so that if the fufu clutched to Papa-Unukwa's throat and choked him, I would run and get him water. I did not know where the water was, though Jaja nudged me again, and I still could not get up. The bench held me back, stuck me in. I watched a grey rostart walk into the shrine at the corner of the yard, where Papa-Unukwa's gods were, where Papa said Jaja and I were never to go near. The shrine was a low, open shade, its mold roof and walls covered with dried palm fronds. It looks like the grotto behind St. Angel's, the one dedicated to Our Ladies of Rhodes. Let us go, Papa-Unukwa, Jaja said, finally rising. All right, my son, Papa-Unukwa said. He did not say, what, so soon? Or does my house chase you away? He was used to our leaving moments after we arrived. When he walked us to the car, balancing on his crock-wall stick made from a tree branch, Kelvin came out of the car and greeted him, then handed him a slim wad of cash. Oh, thanks Eugene for me, Papa-Unukwa said, smiling. Thank him. He waved as we drove off. I waved back and I kept my eyes on him while he shuffled back into the compound. If Papa-Unukwa minded that his son sent him impersonal, paltry amount of money through a driver, he didn't show it. He hadn't shown it last Christmas or the Christmas before. He had never shown it. It was so different from the way Papa had treated my maternal grandfather until he died 5 years ago. When we arrived at Aba every Christmas, Papa would go and stop by grandfather's house at our Ikwo Inen, mother's maiden's home, before we even drove to our own compound. Grandfather was very light-skinned, almost albino, and it was said to be one of the reasons the missionary had liked him. He determinedly spoke English, always in a heavy Igbo accent. He knew Latin too, often quoted the Articles of Vatican I, and spent most of his time at St. Paul, where he had been the first catechist. He had insisted that we call him Godfather in English rather than Papa-Unukwa or Nna Achi. Papa still talked about him often, his eyes proud as if grandfather were his own father. He opened his eyes before many of our people. Papa would say he was one of the few who welcomed the missionaries. Do you know how quickly we learned English when he became an interpreter? Do you know how many converts he helped win? Why he converted most of Aba himself? He did things the right way, the way the white people did, not what our people do now. Papa had a photo of grandfather in his full regalia of the Knights of St. Joseph, framed in deep mahogany and hung on our wall back in Enugu. I did not need that photo to remember Grandpa, although I was only 10 when he died, but I could remember his almost green albino eyes, the way he seems to use the word sinner in every sentence. Papa-Unukwa does not look as healthy as last year. I whispered close to Jaja's ear as we drove off. I did not want Kelvin to hear. He is an old man, Jaja said. When we got home, Sisi brought our lunch, rice and fried beef, a fawn-colored elegant plate, and Jaja and I ate alone. The church council had started, and we heard the male voices raised sometimes in argument, just as we heard the up-down cadence of the female voice in the backyard. The wives of our umuna who were oiling pots to make them easier to wash later, and grinding spices in wooden mortar, and starting fire underneath the tripod. Will you confess it? I asked Jaja as we ate. What? What you said today? What if we were thirsty? Would we drink in Papa-Unukwa's house? You know we can't drink in Papa-Unukwa's house, I said. I just wanted to say something to make him feel better. He takes it well. He hide it well. Jaja said. Papa opened the door and then came in. I had not heard him come upstairs, and besides, he did not think he would come up because the church council meeting was still going on downstairs. Good afternoon, Papa, Jaja and I said. Kelvin said you stayed up to 25 minutes with your grandfather. Is that what I told you? Papa's voice was low. I wasted time. It was my fault, Jaja said. What did you do there? Did you eat food sacrificed to idol? Did you desecrate your Christian tongue? I sat frozen. I did not know the tongue could be Christian too. No, Jaja said. Papa was walking towards Jaja. He spoke entirely in Igbo now. I thought he would pull at Jaja's ear, that he would tongue and yank at the place as he spoke, that he would slap Jaja's face and his palm would make that sound like a heavy book falling from a library shelf in school. And when he could reach across and slap me on the face with the casualness of reaching for the pepper shaker. But he said, I want you to finish that food and go to your rooms and pray for forgiveness before turning to go back downstairs. The silence he left was heavy but comfortable, like a well-warm, prickling cardigan on a better morning. You still have rice on your plate, Jaja said finally. I nod and pick up my fork. Then I heard Papa's voice just outside the window and put the fork down. What is he doing in my house? What is an Anikwewa doing in my house? The enraged timbre in Papa's voice made my finger cold to the tip. Jaja and I dashed to the window, and because we could not see nothing, we dashed out to the veranda and stood by the pillar. Papa was standing in the front yard, near an orange tree, screaming at the wrinkled old man in a torn white singlet and a wrapper round his waist. A few other men stood around Papa. What an Nakwewa doing in my house? What is a worshipper of idol doing in my house? Leave my house. Do you know that I am in your father's age group? Ogbo, the old man asked. The finger he waved in the air was meant for Papa's face, but it only hovered round his chest. Do you know that I suck my mother's breast when your father sucked his mother's? Leave my house, Papa pointed at the gate. Two men slowly ushered Aniwenkwa out of the compound. He did not resist. He was too old to. Anyway, but he kept looking back and throwing words at Papa. Twaf Ifwa Kwagidi, you are like a fly blindly following a corpse into the grave. I followed the old man on steady guard until he walked out through the gate. Chapter 5. Auntie Ifeoma came the next day. In the evening, when the orange tree started to cast along a wavy shadow across the water fountain in the front yard, her laughter flooded upstairs into the living room, where I sat reading. I had not heard it in 2 years, but I would know that the crackling, hearty sound anyway. Auntie Ifeoma was as tall as Papa, with a well-proportioned body. She walked fast like one who knew just where she was going and what she was going to do there. And she spoke the way she walked, as if to get as many words out of her mouth as she could in the shortest time. Welcome, Auntie Ono, I said, raising to hug her. She did not give me the usual brief side hug. She clasped me in her arms and held me tightly against the softness of her body. The white lapel of her blue, a-lined dress smelled of lavender. Camille Kedu, a wild smile stretched her dark complexion face, revealing a gap between her front teeth. I am fine, Auntie. You have grown so much. Look at you. She stretched out and pulled my left breast. Look at how fast these are growing. I looked away and inhaled deeply so that I would not start to shudder. I did not know how to handle that kind of playfulness. Where is Jaja? She asked. He is asleep. He has a headache. A headache 3 days to Christmas? No way. I will wake him up and cure that headache. Auntie Ifeoma laughed. We got there before noon. We left Nsukka really early and would have got here sooner if the car didn't break down on the road. But it was near 9th mile, thank God. So it was easy finding a mechanic. Thanks be to God, I said. Then after a pause, I asked, how are my cousins? It was the polite thing to say. Still, I felt strange asking about the cousins I hardly knew. They are coming soon. They are with your Papa-Unukwa, and he had just started one of his stories. You know how he likes to go on and on. Oh, I said, I did not know that Papa-Unukwa liked to go on and on. I did not even know that he told stories. Mama came in holding a tray piled high with bottles of salt and malt drink. Lying on the side, a plate of chin-chin was balanced on top of the drink. Nwanye, who are those for? Auntie Ifeoma asked. You and the children, Mama said. Did you not say the children were coming soon, Akwa? You should not have bothered. Really? We bought akwa on our way and just ate it. Then I will put the chin-chin in a bag for you, Mama said. She turned to leave the room. Her wrapper was dressy, with yellow print design, and her matching blouse had yellow lines sewn into the puffy short sleeve. Unwami, Auntie Ifeoma called, and Mama turned back. The first time I heard Auntie Ifeoma call Mama Unwami years ago, I was aghast that a woman called another woman my wife. When I asked, Papa said it was the remnant of ungodly tradition, the idea that it was the family and not the man alone that marry a wife. And later Mama whispered, although we are alone in my room, I am her wife too, because I am your father's wife. It shows that she accepts me. Unwemi, come and sit down. You look tired. Are you well? Auntie Ifeoma asked. A tight smile appeared on Mama's face. I am well, very well. I have been helping the wives of the Umuna with the cooking. Come and sit down, Auntie Ifeoma said again. Come and sit down and rest. The wives of the Umuna can look for the salt themselves and find it. After all, they are all here to take from you, to wrap meat in banana leaves when nobody is looking, and then sneak it home. Auntie Ifeoma laughed. Mama sat next to me. Eugene is arranging for extra chairs to be put outside, especially on Christmas Day. So many people have come already. You know our people have no other work at Christmas than to go from house to house, Auntie Ifeoma said. But you can't stay here serving them all day. We should take the children to Abagana for the Oro festival tomorrow to look at the Imwo. Eugene will not let the children to go to a heating festival, Mama said. Heating festival, kwa? Everybody goes to Aro to look at the Imwo. I know, but you know Eugene. Auntie Ifeoma shook her head slowly. I will tell him we are going for a drive, so we can all spend time together, especially the children. Mama fiddled with her finger and said nothing for a while. Then she asked, when will you take the children to their father's hometown? Perhaps today, although I don't have the strength for Ife Diora's family right now. They eat more and more shit every year. The people in the Umona said he left money somewhere and I have been hiding it. Last Christmas, one of the women from their compound even told me I had killed him. I wanted to stuff sand in her mouth. Then I thought that I should sit her down and explain that you do not kill a husband you love, that you do not orchestrate a car accident in which a trailer rammed into your husband's car. But again, why waste any time? They all have the brain of a guinea fowl. Auntie Ifeoma made a loud hissing sound. I don't know how much longer I will take my children there. Mama clutched in sympathy. People do not always talk with sense, but it is good that the children go, especially the boys. They need to know their father's home state and members of their father's umuna. I honestly do not know how Ifediora came from an umuna like that. I watched their lips move as they spoke. Mama Bear lips were more pale compared to Auntie Ifeoma's, covered with a shiny brown lipstick. Umuna will always say hurtful things, Mama said. Did our own Umuna not tell Eugene to take another wife because a man of his stature cannot have just 2 children? If people like you had not been on my side. Stop it, stop being grateful. If Eugene had done that, he would have been the loser, not you. So you say, a woman with children and no husband. What is that? Me? Mama shook her head. You have come again, Ifeoma. You know what I mean. How can a woman live like that? Mama's eyes had grown round, taking up more space on her face. Nwami, sometimes life begins when marriage ends. You and your university talk. Is this what you tell your students? Mama was smiling. Seriously? Yes, but they marry earlier and earlier these days. What is the use of a degree? They ask me, when we cannot find a job after graduation. At least somebody will take care of them when they marry. I do not know who will take care of whom. 6 girls in my first year seminar class are married. Their husbands visit in Mercedes and Lexus cars every weekend. Their husbands buy them terrace and textbooks and refrigerators, and when they graduate, the husbands own them and their degree. Don't you see? Mama shook her head. University talk again. A husband crowns a woman's life. Ifeoma, it is what they want. It is what they think they want. But how can I blame them? Look at what this military tyrant is doing to our country. Auntie Ifeoma closed her eyes. In the way that the people, when they want to remember something unpleasant. We had not had fuel for 3 months in Nsukka. I spent the night in the petrol station last week, waiting for fuel, and at the end, the fuel did not come. Some people left their cars in the station because they did not have enough fuel to drive back home. If you see the mosquito that bite me that night, the bumps on my skin were as big as a cashew nut. Oh, Mama shook her head sympathetically. How are things generally at the university though? We just called off yet another strike. Even though no lecturer has been paid for the last 2 months, they tell us the federal government has no money. Auntie Ifeoma chuckled with little harmony. If Okwa, people are leaving the country. Philippa left 2 months ago. You remember my friend Philippa? She came back with you for Christmas a few years ago, dark and plumpy. Yes, she is now teaching in America. She shares a cramped office with another adjunct professor, but she said at least teachers are paid there. Auntie Ifeoma stopped and reached out to brush something off Mama's blouse. I watched every movement she made. I could not tear my ears away. It was the fearlessness about her, about the way she gestured as she spoke, the way she smiled and to show that white gaps. I have brought out my old kerosene stove, she continued. It is what we use now. We do not even smell the kerosene in the kitchen anymore. Do you know how much a cooking gas cylinder costs? It is outrageous. Mama shifted to the sofa. Why don't you tell Eugene? There are gas cylinders in the factory. Auntie Ifeoma laughed, patted Mama's shoulder fondly. Nwami, things are tough, but we are not dying yet. I tell you all these things because it is you. With someone else, I will rub Vaseline on my hungry face until it shone. Papa came in then, on his way to his bedroom. I was sure it was to get more stack of naira notes that he would give to visitor for Iba Christmas, and then tell them it's from God, not me, when they started singing their thanks. Eugene, Auntie Ifeoma called out, I was saying Jaja and Camille should spend some time with me and the children tomorrow. Papa grunted and kept walking to the door. Eugene, every time Auntie Ifeoma spoke to Papa, my heart stopped, then started again in a hurry. It was the flippant tune. She did not seem to recognize that it was Papa, that he was different, special. I want to reach out and press her lips shut and get some of that shiny brown lipstick on my fingers. Where do you want to take them? Papa asked, standing by the door. Just to look around. Sightseeing, Papa asked. He spoke English, while Auntie Ifeoma spoke Igbo. Eugene, let the children come out with us. Auntie Ifeoma sounded irritated. Her voice was slightly raised. It is not Christmas that we are celebrating, eh? The children have never really spent time with one another. Imakwa, my little one, Chima, does not even know Camille's name. Papa looked at me and then at Mama, searched our face as if looking for letters beneath our nose, above our forehead, and on our lips that would spell something. Something he would not like. Okay, they can come with you, but you know I do not want my children near anything ungodly. If you drive past Umuna, keep your windows up. I have heard you, Eugene, Auntie Ifeoma said, with an exaggerated formality. Why don't we all have lunch on Christmas Day? Papa asked. The children can spend time together then. You know the children and I spend Christmas Day with Papa-Unukwa. What do idol worshippers know about Christmas, Eugene? Auntie Ifeoma took a deep breath. Okay, the children and I will come on Christmas Day. Papa had gone back downstairs and I was still sitting on the sofa, watching Auntie Ifeoma talk to Mama when my cousins arrived. Amaka was teenager copy of her mother. She walked and talked even faster and with more purpose than Auntie Ifeoma did. Only her eyes were different. They did not have the unconditional warmth of Auntie Ifeoma's. They were quizzical eyes that asked many questions and did not accept many answers. Obiora was a year younger, very light-skinned with honey-colored eyes behind his thick glasses, and his mouth turned up at the side of a perpetual smile. Chima had skin as dark as the bottom of a burnt pot of rice and was tall for a boy of 7. They all laughed alike. Trotty, chuckling sounds pushed out with enthusiasm. They greeted Papa, and when he gave them money for Iba Christmas, Amaka and Obiora thanked him, holding out the 2 thick weight of naira notes. Their eyes were politely surprised to show that they were not presumptuous, that they had not expect money. You have satellite here, don't you? Amaka asked me. It was the first thing she said after we greeted each other. Her hair was cut short, higher at the front and gradually reducing in an egg until it got to the back of her head where there was little hair. Yes, can we watch CNN? I forced a cough out of my throat. I hope I will not stutter. Maybe tomorrow, Amaka continued, because right now I think we are going to visit my dad's family in We don't watch a lot of TV, I said. Why? Amaka asked. It was so unlikely that we were of the same age, 15. She seemed so much older, or maybe it was her striking resemblance to Auntie Ifeoma, or the way she stared me right in the eyes, because you are bored with it. If only we all had settlers so everyone could be bored with it. I wanted to say I was sorry, that I did not want her to dislike us for not watching satellites. I wanted to tell her that although huge settlers dishes hung on top of the houses in Enugu and here, we did not watch TV. Papa did not Baba did not pencil in TV time on our schedules, but Amaka had turned to her mother, who was sitting hunched with Mama. Mom, if we are going to Okpa, we should leave soon so we can get back before Papa-Unukwa fell asleep. Auntie Ifeoma rose. Yes, Nne, we should leave. She held Chima's hand as they walked downstairs. Amaka said nothing, pointing out our banister and its heavy handcuff detail. And Obiora laughed. She did not turn to say goodbye to me, although the boys did, and Auntie Ifeoma waved and said, I will see you and Jaja tomorrow. Auntie Ifeoma drove into the compound just as we finished breakfast. When she barged into the dining room upstairs, I imagined a proud Asian forebear walking miles to fetch water in homemade clay pots, nursing babies until they walked and talked, fighting wars with machetes sharpened on non-sun stone. She filled a room. Are you ready, Jaja and Camille? She asked. Uwami, will you not come with us? Mama shook her head. You know how Eugene likes me to stay around. Camille, I think you will be more comfortable in trousers, Auntie Ifeoma said as we walked to the car. I am fine, Auntie, I said. I wonder why I did not tell her that all my skirts stopped well past my knees, that I did not own any trouser because it was sinful for a woman to wear trousers. Her Peugeot 504 stationed wagon was wide and rusted to an unpleasant brown at the fender. Amaka was seated in the front, Obiora and Chima in the back seat. Jaja and I climbed into the middle seat. Mama stood watching until the car disappeared from her side. I knew because I felt her eyes, felt her presence. The car made rustling sound, as if some bolt had come loose and were shaking with every rise and fall of the bumpy road. There were gaping rectangular spaces on the dashboard instead of air conditioner vents, so the windows were kept down. Dust lay across my mouth, into my eyes and nose. We are going to pick up Papa-Unukwa. He will come with us, Auntie Ifeoma said. I felt a lunch in my stomach and I glanced at Jaja. His eyes met mine. What will we tell Papa? Jaja looked away. He did not have an answer. Before Auntie Ifeoma stopped the engine in front of the moat-thatched enclosed compound, Amaka had opened the front door and bounded out. I will fetch Papa-Unukwa. The boys climbed out of the car and followed Amaka past the small wooden gate. Don't you want to come out? Auntie Ifeoma asked, turning to Jaja and me. I looked away. Jaja was sitting as still as I was. You don't want to come into your Papa-Unukwa's compound, but didn't you come to greet him 2 days ago? Auntie Ifeoma widened her eyes to stare at us. We are not allowed to come here after we have greeted him, Jaja said. What kind of nonsense is that, eh? Auntie Ifeoma stopped then, perhaps remembering that the rules were not ours. Tell me why you do not think your father doesn't want you here. I don't know, Jaja said. I sucked my tongue to unfreeze it, tasting the gritty dust. Because Papa-Unukwa is a pagan. Papa would be proud that I said that. Your Papa-Unukwa is not a pagan, Camille. He is a traditionalist, Auntie Ifeoma said. I stared at her. Pagan traditionalist? What did it matter? He is not Catholic. That was all. He was not of the faith. He was one of the people whose convention we prayed whose conversion we prayed for, so that they did not end in the everlasting torment of hellfire. We sat silently until the gate swung open and Amaka came out, walking close enough to Papa-Unukwa to support him if he needed it. The boys walked behind them. Papa-Unukwa wore a loose print shirt and a pair of a nail-tight khaki shorts. I never seen him in anything but the threadbare wrappers that were worn around his body. Then we visited him. I got him those shorts, Ifeoma said with a laugh. See how he looks so youthful. Who would believe he is 80? Amaka helped Papa-Unukwa get into the front seat, and then she got in the middle with us. Papa-Unukwa, good afternoon, sir, Jaja and I greeted. Kamili, Jaja, I see you again before you go back to the sitting, eh? It's a sign that I am going sooner to meet the ancestors. Nah, Ayi, are you not tired of predicting your death? Auntie Ifeoma said, starting the engine. Let us hear something new. She called him Nna Ayi, our father. I wonder if Papa used to call him that, and what Papa would call him now if they spoke to each other. He likes to talk about dying soon, Amaka said in amused English. He thinks that will get us to do things for him. Dying soon indeed. He will be here when we are as old as he is now, Obiora said in equal amused English. What are those children saying, Agbo, Ifeoma? Papa-Unukwa asked. Are they conspiring to share my gold and many lands? Will they not wait for me to go first? If you had gold and lands, we would not have killed you ourselves years ago, Ifeoma said. We would have killed you ourselves years ago, Auntie Ifeoma said. My cousin laughed and Amaka glanced at Jaja and me, perhaps wondering why we did not laugh too. I wanted to smile, but we were driving past our house. Just then the sight of the looming black gate and the white wall stiffened my leaves. This is what our people say to the high God, the Chukwu, Papa-Unukwa said. Give me both wealth and a child. But if I must choose one, give me a child, because when my child grows, so will my wealth. Papa-Unukwa stopped, turned to look back towards our house. Nekenem, look at me. My son owned that house that can fit in every man in Aba, and yet many times I have nothing to put on my plate. I should not have let him follow those missionaries. Nna Ayi, Auntie Ifeoma said. It was not the missionaries. Did I not go to the missionary school too? But you are a woman. You do not count. Eh? So I do not count. Has Eugene ever asked about your aching legs? If I do not count, then I will stop if you rose well in the morning. I will stop asking if you rose well in the morning. Papa-Unukwa chuckled. Then my spirit would haunt you when I join the ancestors. It will haunt Eugene first. I joke with him. Nwami, where would I be today if my chi had not given me a daughter? Papa-Unukwa paused. My spirit will intercede for you, so that Chukwu will send a good man to take care of you and the children. Let your spirit add Chukwu to hasten my promotion to senior lecturer. That is all I ask, Auntie Ifeoma asked. Papa-Unukwa did not reply for a while, and I wonder if the mix of high life music from the car radio and the rattling of the loose screw and the harmattan haze has eased him into sleep. Still, I said it was the missionaries that misled my son, he said, startling again. We have heard this many times. Tell us something else, Auntie Ifeoma said. But Papa-Unukwa kept talking as though he had not heard her. I remember the first one that came to Aba, the one they called Father John. His face was red like palm oil. They said our type of sun does not shine in white man's land. He had a helper, a man from Nemo called Jude. In the afternoon, they gathered the children under the Nkwa tree in the mission and taught them their religion. I did not join them, but I went sometimes to see what they were doing. One day I said to them, where is this God you worship? They said he was like Chukwu, that he was in the sky. I asked them, who is the person that was killed? the person that hung on the wood outside the mansion. They said he was the son, but the son and the father are equal. It was then that I knew that the white man was mad. The father and the son equal? Sophia, do you not see? That is why Eugene can disregard me, because he thinks we are equal. My cousin chuckled. So did Auntie Ifeoma, who soon stopped and said to Papa-Unukwa, "It is enough. Close your mouth and rest. We are almost there, and you will need your energy to tell the children about the Umwa." "Papa-Unukwa, are you comfortable?" Amaka asked, leaning across towards the front seat. "Do you want me to adjust your seat to make more rooms for you?" "No, I am fine. I am an old man now and my height is gone. I would not have fit this car in my prime. In those days, I plucked icheku from the tree by just reaching out high. I did not need to climb." "Of course," Auntie Ifeoma said, laughing again, and could not reach out and touch the sky too. She laughed so easily, so often. They all did, even little Chima. When we got to Ezi Icheke, cars lined the road almost bumper to bumper. The crowd that pressed around the cars were so dense that there was no space between people, and they blended into one another. Wrappers blended into t-shirts, trousers into shirts, dresses into shirts. Auntie Ifeoma finally found a spot and eased the station wagon in. The Umwa had started to walk past, and often a long line of cars waited for an Umwa to walk past so they could drive on. Hawkers were at every corner, with glass-enclosed cases of akara and suya and brown chicken drumstick, with tray of peeled orange, the cooler the size of a baton full of world's banana ice cream. It was like a vibrant painting that had come alive. I had never been to see Umwa, to sit in a stationary car alongside thousands of people who had all come to watch. Papa had driven us past the crowd at Ezi Icheke once, some years ago, and he muttered about ignorant people participating in ritual of pagan masquerade. He said that the stories about Umwa, that they were spirits who had climbed out of the ant hole, that they could make chairs runs and basket hold water, were all devilish folkholes. Devilish folkhole. It sounded dangerous the way Papa said it. "Look at this," Papa-Unukwa said. "This is a woman's spirit, and the woman Umwa are harmless. They do not even go near the big ones at the festival." The Umwa he pointed to was small, its carved wooden face with angular, pretty features and rough lips. It stopped after to dance, winkling this way and that, so that the thread of bead around its waist swayed and rippled. The crowd hereby cheered, and some people threw money towards it. Little boys, the followers of the Umwa, who were playing music with metal organs and wooden ichakas, picked up the crumpled naira note. They had passed us when Papa-Unukwa shouted, "Look away, women cannot look at this one." The Umwa making its way down the road was surrounded by a few elderly men who rang a shrill bell as the Umwa walked. Its mark was a really grimacing human skull with sunken eye sockets. A squirming tortoise was tied to its forehead. A snake and 3 dead chickens hung from its grass-covered body, swinging as the Umwa walked. The crowd near the road moved back quickly, fearfully. Few women turned and dashed into the nearby compound. Auntie Ifeoma looked amused, but she turned her head away. "Don't look, girls. Let humor your grandfather," she said in English. Amaka had already looked away. I looked away too, to gather the crowd of people that pressed around the car. It was sinful, deferring to a heathen masquerade, but at least I had looked at it briefly, so maybe it would technically not be differing to be a Hitan masquerade. This is our Ango. This is our Angona Tumbe, Papa-Unukwa said proudly. After the Umo had walked past, it is the most powerful Umo in our part, and all the neighboring villages fear Aba because of it. At last year's Oro festival, Tumbe raised a staff, and all the other Umo turned and ran. They didn't even wait to see what would happen. Look, Obiora points at another Umo moving down the road. It was like a floating white cloth, flat taller than the huge avocado tree in our yard in Enugu. Papa-Unukwa grunted as the Umo went by. It was Erin, watching it, and I thought then of chairs running, their forehead knocking together, of of water being held in a basket, of human form climbing out of the anthole. How do they do that, Papa-Unukwa? How do people get inside that one? Jaja asked. Shh! These are Umo spirits. Don't speak like a woman, Papa-Unukwa snapped, turned to glare at Jaja. Auntie Ifeoma laughed and spoke in English. Jaja, you are not supposed to say that. You are not supposed to say there are people in there. Didn't you know that? No, Jaja said. She was watching Jaja. You didn't do the Ima Umo, did you? Obiora did it 2 years ago in his father's hometown. No, I didn't, Jaja mumbled. I looked at Jaja and wondered if the dimness in his eyes was shame. I suddenly wished for him that he had done the Ima Umo, the initiation into spirit world. I knew very little about it. Women were not supposed to know anything at all, since it was the first step towards the initiation to manhood. But Jaja once told me that he heard the boys were flogged and made to bath in the presence of a taunting crowd. The only time Papa had talked about Ima Imo was to say that the Christians who let their sons do it were confused and they would end up in hellfire. We left Ezi Icheke soon afterward. Auntie Ifeoma dropped off a sleepy Papa-Unukwa first. His eyes was half closed while his going blind eyes stayed open. The film covering it looked thicker now, like concentrated milk. When Auntie Ifeoma stopped inside our compound, she asked her children if they wanted to come into the house, and Amaka said no in a loud voice that seems to prompt her brothers to say the same. Auntie Ifeoma took us in, waved to Papa, who was in the middle of a meeting, and hugged Jaja and me in her height wave before leaving. That night, I dreamed that I was laughing, but it did not sound like my laughter. Although I was not sure what my laughter sounds like, it was cackling and throaty and acoustic, like Auntie Ifeoma's. Chapter 6. Papa drove us to Christmas Mass at St. Paul's. Auntie Ifeoma and her children were climbing into the station wagon as we drove into the sprawling church compound. They waited for Papa to stop the Mercedes and then came over to greet us. Auntie Ifeoma said they had gone to the early Mass and they would see us at lunchtime. She looked taller, even more fearless, in a red wrapper and high heels. Amaka wore the same bright red lipstick as her mother. It made her teeth seem whiter than when she smiled and said, "Merry Christmas." Although I tried to concentrate on Mass, I kept thinking of Amaka's lipstick, wondering what it felt like to run color over your lips. It was even harder to keep my mind on Mass because the prince, who spoke evil throughout, did not talk about the gospel during the sermon. Instead, he talked about zinc and cement. You people think I ate the money for the zinc and cement. Okwia, he shouted, gesticulating, pointing accusingly at the congregation. After all, how many of you give to this church, Agbo? How can we build the house if we don't give? Do you think zinc and cement cost a mere 10 kobo? Papa wished the prince could talk about something else, something about the birds in the manger, about the shepherd and the guiding star. I knew from the way Papa held his missile too tight, the way he shifted often on the pew. We were seated in the first pew. An usher wearing a Blessed Virgin Mary medal on her white cotton dress had rushed forward to seat us, telling Papa in loud, urgent whisper that the front pew were reserved for the important people. Chief Adi, the only man in Aba whose house was bigger than ours, sat on the left, and His Royal Highness the Igwe was on the right. The Igwe came over to shake Papa's hand. During peace and love, he said, no, I will stop by later so we can greet properly. After Mass, we accompanied Papa to a fundraising in the multipurpose hall next to the church building. It was for the priest's new house. An usher was with a scarf tied across her forehead, passed out pamphlets with pictures of Prince's old house, on certain arrow pointing at where the roof leaked, where termite had eaten up the door frame. Papa wrote a check and handed it to the usher, telling her that he wanted to make a speech. When the MC announced the amount, the priest got up and started to dance, jerking his behind this way and that. The crowd rose up and cheered so loudly it was like the rumbling of a thunder at the end of a rainy season. Let's go, Papa said. When the MC finally moved to announce a new donation, he led the way out of the hall, smiling and waving at the many hands that reached out to grasp his white tunic as if touching him would heal them of an illness. When we got home, all the couches and sofa in the living room were full. Some people were perched on the side tables. Men and women all rose when Papa came in and chanted, Ome Laura filled the air. Papa went about shaking hands and hugging and saying Merry Christmas and God bless you. Somebody had left the door that led to the backyard open, and the blue-gray firewood smoke that hung heavy in the living room blew the facial features of the guests. I could hear the wife of the Umuna chanting in the backyard, scooping soup and stew from a huge pot on the fire into bowls that would be taken to serve the people. Come and greet the wives of our Umuna, Mama said to Jaja and me. We followed her out of the backyard. The women clapped and horns when Jaja and I said, Unonu, welcome. They all looked alike, in ill-fitting blouses, threadbare wrappers, and scarves tied around their heads. They all had the same white smile, the same chalk-colored teeth, the same sun-dried skin, the color and the texture of granite hawks. Nekene, see the boy that will inherit his father's riches, one woman said, putting even more loudly, her mouth shaped like a narrow tunnel. If we did not have the same blood in our veins, I will sell you my daughter, another said to Jaja. She was squatting near the fire, arranging the firewood underneath the tripod. The others laughed. The girl is a ripe agboho. Very soon a strong young man will bring us palm wine, another said. Her dirty wrapper was not knotted properly, and one end trailed in the dirty as she walked, carrying a tray molded with bits of fried beef. Go up and change, Mama said, holding Jaja and me around the shoulders. Your auntie and cousin will be here soon. Upstairs, Sisi has set 8 plates at the dining table with white plates the color of a caramel and matching napkin ironed onto crisp triangle. Auntie Ifeoma and her children arrived while I was still changing out my church clothes. I heard her loud laughter, and its echo went on for a while. I did not realize it was my cousin's laughter. The sound reflected their mothers until I went out to the living room. Mama, who was still in the pink, heavy sequins wrapper she had worn to church, she sat next to Auntie Ifeoma on the couch. Jaja was talking to Amaka and Obiora near the evergreen. I went over to join them, starting to pace my breath so that I would not stutter. That is stereo, isn't it? Why don't you play some music? Or are you bored with the stereo too? Amaka asked, her placid eyes darting from Jaja to me. Yes, it's a stereo, Jaja said. He did not say that we never play it, that we never even thought to, that all we listened to was the news on Papa's radio during family time. Amaka went on and pulled out the LP drawer. Obiora joined her. No wonder you don't play the stereo. Everything in here is so dull, she said. You are not that dull. They are not that dull, Obiora said, looking through the LPs. They had a habit of pushing his thick glasses up the bridge of his nose. Finally, he put on an Irish church choir singing, "O Come Ye Faithful." He seems fascinated by the stereo player, and as the song played, stood watching it as if he would learn the secret of its chrome entrailed by staring hard at it. Chima came into the room. The toilet here is so nice, Mommy. It has big mirror, creams in glass bottles. I hope you didn't break any, Auntie Ifeoma said. I didn't, Chima said. Can we put the TV on? No, Auntie Ifeoma said. Your Uncle Eugene is coming up soon, so we can have lunch. Sisi came into the room, smelling of food and spices, to tell Mama that the Igwe had arrived, that Papa wants us all to come down and greet him. Mama rose, tightened her wrapper, and then waited for Auntie Ifeoma to lead the way. I thought the Igwe was supposed to stay in his palace and receive guests. I didn't know he visited people's homes, Amaka said, as we went downstairs. I guess that's because Papa is a big man. I wish she had said Uncle Eugene instead of your father. She did not even look at me as she spoke. I felt looking at her that I was helplessly watching preciously flicking sand slip away between my fingers. The Igwe's palace was a few minutes from our house. We had visited him once, some years back. We never visited him again though. Though, because Papa said that although the Igwe had converted, he still let pagan relatives carry out sacrifice in his palace. Mama had greeted him the traditional way that women were supposed to, blending low and offering him her bag so that he would pat it with a fan made of the soft, straw-colored trail of an animal. Back home that night, Papa told Mama that it was sinful. You did not bow to another human being. It was an ungodly tradition, bowing to an Igwe. So a few days later, when we went to see the bishop at Aqua, I did not kneel to kiss his ring. I wanted to make Papa proud, but Papa yanked my ear in the car and said I did not have the spirit of discernment. The bishop was a man of God. The Igwe was merely a traditional ruler. Good afternoon, sir. No, I said to the Igwe when I got downstairs. The hair that peeks out of his wide nose quivered as he smiled at me and said, "Our daughter, Kedu." One of the smaller sitting room had been cleared for him and his wife and 4 assistants, one of whom was fanning him with a gilded fan, although the air conditioner was on. Another was fanning his wife, a woman with yellow skin and rolls of jewelry hanging round her neck, gold pendants and a bead on the coral. The scarf wound round her head, flicked out in front, wide like a banana leaf, and so high that I imagined the person sitting behind her in church having to stand up to see the altar. I watched Auntie Ifeoma sing to one king and said, "Igwe," in the right voice of a respectful salute. Watch him pat her back. The gold sequins that covered his tunic glowed in the afternoon sunlight. Amaka bowed deeply before him. Mama, Jaja, and Obiora shook hands with him, respectfully enclosing his hand in both of theirs. I stood at the door a little longer to make sure that Papa saw that I did not go close enough to the Igwe to bow to him. Back upstairs, Mama and Auntie Ifeoma went into Mama's room. Chima and Obiora stretched out on the rug, playing with the word card that Obiora had discovered in his pocket. Amaka went to see a book Jaja told her he had brought, and they went into Jaja's room. I sat on the sofa watching my cousins play with the cat. I did not understand the game, nor why at interval one of them yelled, "Donkey!" amid laughter. The terror had stopped. I got up and went into the hallway standing by Mama's bedroom's door. I wanted to go in and sit with Mama and Auntie Ifeoma, but instead I just stood still, listening. Mama was whispering. I could barely make out the words. There are many full glass cylinders lying around in the factory. She was trying to persuade Auntie Ifeoma to ask Papa for them. Auntie Ifeoma was whispering too, but I heard her well. Her whisper was like tall, exuberant, fearless, loud, large than life. Have you forgotten that Eugene offered to buy me a car even before Ifeoma died? But first, he wants us to join the night at St. John. He wants us to send Amaka to convent school. He even wanted me to stop wearing makeups. I want a new car. I want a new car, Nwami, and I want to use my gas cooker again. And I want a new freezer, and I want money so that I will not have to unravel the seam of Chima's trouser when she outgrown them. But I will not ask my brother to bend over so that I can lick his buttocks to get these things. Ifeoma, if you, Mama's soft voice trailed off again. You know why Eugene did not get along with Ifeoma? Auntie Ifeoma whispered was back, fiercer, louder, because Ifeoma told him to his face that when he felt Ifeoma was afraid to tell the truth, but he knows Eugene quarreled with the truth that he does not like. Our father is dying. Do you hear me? Dying. He is an old man. How much longer does he have, Agbo? Yet Eugene will not let him into his house, will not even greet him. Ojoka, Eugene has to stop doing God's job. God is big enough to do his own job. If God will judge our father for choosing to follow the way of our ancestors, then let God do the judging, not Eugene. I heard the word Umuna. Auntie Ifeoma laughed her throaty laughter before she replied, you know that the members of our Umuna, in fact, everybody in Aba, will tell Eugene only what he wants to hear. Do our people not have sense? Will you pinch the finger of the hand that feed you? I did not hear Amaka come out of Jaja's room and walk towards me, perhaps because the hallway was so wide, until she said, so close that her breath found my neck. What are you doing? I jumped. Nothing. She was looking at me oddly, right in the eyes. Your father has come upstairs for lunch, she finally said. Papa watched as we all sat down at the table and then started the grace. It was a little longer than usual, more than 20 minutes, when he finally said, Through Christ our Lord. Auntie Ifeoma raised her voice so that her amen stood out from the rest of ours. Did you want the rice to get cold, Eugene? She murmured. Papa continued to unfold his napkin as though he had not heard her. The sound of forks meeting plates, of serving spoons, meeting plasters, filled the dining room. Sisi had drawn the curtain and turned the chandelier on, even though it was afternoon. The yellow light made Obiora's eyes seem a deeper gold, like extra sweet honey. The air condition was on, but I was hot. Amaka piled almost everything on her dish: jollof rice, fufu and 2 different soups, fried chicken and beef, salad and cream. like someone who would not have an opportunity to eat again soon. Strip of lettuce reached across from the edge of her plate to touch the dining table. Do you always eat rice with fork and knife and napkins? She asked, turning to watch me. I nod, keeping my eyes on my jollof rice. I wish Amaka would keep her voice low. I was not used to this kind of conversation at table. Eugene, you must let the children come and visit us in Nsukka, Auntie Ifeoma said. We do not have a mansion, but at least they can get to know their cousins. The children don't like to be away from home, Papa said. That's because they have never been away from home. I am sure they would like to see Nsukka, Jaja and Kambili, won't you? I mumbled to my plate, then started to cough as if real sensible words would have come out of my mouth but for the coughing. If Papa said it was all right, Jaja said. Papa smiled at Jaja, and I wish I had said that. Maybe the next time they are on holiday, Papa said firmly. He expected Auntie Ifeoma to let it go. Eugene, Biko, let the children come and spend 1 week with us. They do not resume school until late January. Let your driver bring them to Nsukka. Ngwanu, we will see, Papa said. He spoke Igbo for the first time, his brows almost meeting in a quick frown. Ifeoma was saying that they just called off a strike, Mama said. Are things getting better in Nsukka? Papa asked, reverting to English. The university is living on past glory nowadays. Auntie Ifeoma narrowed her eyes. Have you ever picked up the phone and called me to ask me that question? Eugene? Will your hands wither away if you pick up the phone one day and call your sister Agbo? Her Igbo words had a teasing lilt, but the stillness in her tone created a knot in my throat. I did call you, Ifeoma. How long ago was that? I asked you. How long ago was that? Auntie Ifeoma put her fork down. She sat still for a long, tense moment, as still as Papa was, as still as we all were. Finally, Mama cleared the throat and asked Papa if the bottle of juice was empty. Yes, Papa said. Ask that girl to bring more bottle juice. Mama got up to call Sisi. The long bottles Sisi brought looked as though they contained an elegant liquid. The way they tapped like a slender, sharp, shapely woman. Papa poured for everyone and proposed a toast to the spirit of Christmas, to the glory of God. We repeated him in chorus. Obiora's sentence had a lift at the end, and it came out sounding like a question. To the glory of God, and to us, and to the spirit of family, Auntie Ifeoma added before they drank. Does your factory make this, Uncle Eugene? Amaka asked, squinting to see what was written on the bottle. Yes, Papa answered. It's a little too sweet. It would be nicer if you reduce the sugar in it. Amaka's tone was as polite and normal as everyday conversation with an elder people. I was not sure if Papa nodded or if his head simply moved as he chewed. Another knot formed in my throat, and I could not get a mouthful of rice down. I knocked my glass over as I reached for it, and the blood-colored juice crept over the white lace tablecloth. Mama hastily placed a napkin on the spot, and when she raised the reddened napkin, I remember her bloody on the stairs. Did you hear about Ope, Uncle Eugene? Amaka asked. It is a tiny village in Benue. The Virgin Mary is appearing there. I wonder how Amaka did it, how she opened her mouth and had words flow easily out. Papa spent some time chewing and swallowing before he said, yes, I heard about it. I plan to go on pilgrimage there with the children, Auntie Ifeoma said. Maybe Camille and Jaja can go with us. Amaka looked up quickly. Surprised, she started to say something and then stopped. Well, the church has not verified the authenticity of the apparition, Papa said, starting thoughtfully at this. at his plate, staring thoughtfully at his plate. You know, we will all be dead before the church officially speaks about Okpe, Auntie Ifeoma said. Even if the church says it's not authentic, what matters is why we go, and it's from faith. Papa looked unexpectedly pleased with what Auntie Ifeoma had said. He nodded slowly. When do you plan to go? Sometime in January, before the children resume school. Okay, I will call you when we get back to Enugu to arrange for Jaja and Kambili to go for a day or two. A week, Eugene. They will stay a week. I do not have mustard that eat human heads in my house. Auntie Ifeoma laughed, and children reproduced the throaty sound. Their teeth flashed like the inside of a cracked palm kernel. Only Amaka did not laugh. The next day was Sunday. It was not seems like a Sunday, maybe because we had just got to church on Christmas Day. Mama came into my room and took me gently, hugged me, and I smiled, and I smelled her mint-scented deodorant. Did you sleep well? We are going to the earlier mass today because your father has a meeting right afterward. Kunyi, get into the bathroom. It is past 7. I yawned and sat up. There was a red stain on my bed, white as an open notebook. Your period, Mama said. Did you bring pad? Yes. I barely let the water run over my body before I came out of the shower, so that I would not delay. I picked up a blue and white dress and tied a blue scarf around my head. I knotted it twice at the back of my neck and then tucked the end of my cornrow underneath. Once Papa had hugged me proudly, kissed my forehead, because Father Benedict told him that my hair was always properly covered for Mass, that I was not like the other young girls in church who let some of their hair show, as if they did not know that exposing your hair in church was ungodly. Jaja and Mama were dressed and waiting in the living room upstairs. When I came out, cramps racked my belly. I imagined someone with buck teeth ramical biting deep into my stomach walls and letting go. Do you have Panadol, Mama? Cramps, Abia? Yes, my stomach is so empty too. Mama looked at the wall clock, a gift from a charity Papa donated to, oval shape and embossed with his name in gold lettering. It was 7:37. The Eucharist feast mandate that the faithful not eat solid food an hour before Mass. We never broke the Eucharistic feast. The table was set for breakfast with teacups and cereal bowl side by side, but we would not eat until we come home. Eat a little cornflakes quickly, Mama said, almost in a whisper. You need something in your stomach to hold the Panadol. Jaja poured the cereal from the carton on the table, scooped the powdered milk and sugar with a teaspoon, and added water. The glass bowl was transparent, and I could see the chalky clumps the milk made with the water at the bottom of the bowl. Papa is with visitors. We will hear him as he comes up, he said. I started to wolf the cereal down. Standing, Mama gave me the Panadol tablet, still in the silver-colored foil, which crackled as I opened it. Jaja had not poured much cereal in the bowl, and I was almost done eating it when the door opened and Papa came in. Papa's white teeth, with its perfectly tailored line, did little to minimize the mold of flesh that was his stomach. While he stared at the glass bowl of cornflakes in my hand, I looked down at the few fleecy flakes floating among the clumps of milk and wondered how he had climbed the stairs so soundlessly. What are you doing, Kambili? I swallowed hard. You are eating 10 minutes before Mass? 10 minutes before Mass. Her period started and she has cramps, Mama said. Jaja cut cut her short. I told her to eat the cornflakes before she took Panadol. Papa, I made it for her. Has the devil asked you all to go on errand for him? The Igbo word burst out of Papa's mouth. Has the devil built a tent in my house? He turned to Mama. You sit here and watch her desecrate the Eucharist feast, Maka Inedi. He unblocked his belt slowly. It was a heavy belt made of layers of brown leather with a sardate leather cover buckled. It landed on Jaja first, across his shoulder. Then Mama raised her hand as he landed on her upper arm, which was covered by the fluffy squinted sleeves of her church blouse. I put the bowl down as the belt landed on my back. Sometimes I watch the Fulani nomad, white jalabas flapping against their leg in the wind, making chuckling sound as they head their cow across the road in Enugu with a switch, each marks of the switch swift and precise. Papa was like a Fulani nomad, although he did not have their spare tall body as he swung his belt at Mama, Jaja and me, muttering that the devil would not win. We did not move more than 2 steps away from the leather belt that wheelished through the air. Then the belt stopped, and Papa stared at the leather in his hand. His face crumpled, his eyelids sagged. Why do you walk into sin? He asked. Why do you like sin? Mama took the belt from him and laid it on the table. Papa crossed Jaja and me to his body. Did the belt hurt you? Did it break your skin? He asked, examining our faces. I felt a thumping on my back, but I said no, that I was not hurt. It was the way Papa shook his head when he talked about liking sin, as if something weighed him down, something he could not throw off. We went to the leather mass, but first we changed our clothes. Even Papa, and washed our faces. We left Aba right after New Year. The wives of the Umana took the leftover food, even the cooked rice and beans that Mama said were spoiled. They knelt in the backyard dirt to thank Papa and Mama. The gate man waved with both hands over his head as we drove off. His name was Haruna. He had told Jaja and me a few days before, in his Hausa accented English that reversed P and F. He told us that our father was the best big man he had ever seen, the best employer he had ever had. Did we know our father paid his children school fees? Did we know our father had half his wife get the messenger job at the local government office? We were lucky to have such a father. Papa started the rosary as we drove onto the expressway. We had driven for less than half an hour when we came to a checkpoint where there was a traffic jam and policemen, many more than was usual, were waving their guns and diverting traffic. We didn't see the car involved in the accident until we were in the thick of the jam. One car had stopped at the checkpoint. The other had rammed into from behind. The second car was crushed to half of its size. A bloody corpse, a man in blue jeans, lay on the roadside. May his soul rest in peace, Papa said, crossing himself. Looked away, Mama said, turning back to us. But Jaja and I were already looking at the corpse. Papa was talking about the policeman, about how they set up the roadblock in wooden paths, even if it was dangerous for motorists, just so they could use the bushes to hide the money they extorted from travelers. But I was not really listening to Papa. I was thinking of the man in the blue jeans, the dead man. I was wondering where he was going and what he had planned to do there. Papa called Auntie Ifeoma 2 days later. Perhaps he would not have called her if we had not gone to confession that day. and perhaps then we would never have gone to Nsukka and everything would have remained the same. It was the feast of the Epiphany, a holy day of the obligation, so Papa did not go to work. We went to morning mass, and although we did not usually visit Father Benedict on holy days of obligation, we went to his house afterward. Papa wanted Father Benedict to hear our confession. We had not gone in we had done in Aba because Papa did not like to make his confession in Igbo. And besides, Papa said that the parish priest in Aba was not spiritual enough. That was the problem with our people. Papa told us our priorities were wrong. We cared too much about huge church building and mighty statues. You would never see white people doing that. In Father Benedict's house, Mama and Jaja and I sat in the living room, reading the newspaper and the magazine that were spread on the low, coffin-like table, as if they were for sale, while Papa talked with Father Benedict in the adjoining study room. Papa emerged and asked us to prepare for confession. He would go first. Even though Papa shut the door firmly, I heard his voice, words flowing into each other as an endless rumble like a reviving car engine. Mama went next, and the door remained open a crack, but I could not hear her. Jaja took the shortest time. When he came out, still crossing himself as if he had been in too much of a hurry to leave the room, I asked him with my eyes if he had remembered the lie to Papa-Unukwa, and he nodded. I went into the room, barely big enough to hold a desk and two chairs, and pushed the door to make sure it was shut properly. Bless me, Father, for I have sinned, I said. Seated on the very edge of a chair, I longed for a confessional, for the safety of the wood cubicle and the green curtain that separate prince and penitent. I wish I could kneel, and then I wish I could shred my face with a file from Father Benedict's death. Face-to-face confession made me think of Judgment Day comes early, made me feel unprepared. Yes, Kambili, Father Benedict said. He sat upright on his chair, fingering the purple soul across his shoulder. It has been 3 weeks since my last confession, I said. I was staring fixedly at the walls right below the framed photo of the Pope, which had a signature scrawled underneath. Here are my sins. I lied 2 times. I broke the Eucharist feast once. I lost concentration during the rosary 3 times. For all I have said and for all
I have forgotten to say, I beg pardon from your hands and the hands of God. Father Benedict shifted on his chair. Go on then. You know it's a sin against the Holy Spirit to willfully keep something back at confession. Yes, Father. Go on then. I look away from the wall to glance at him. His eyes were the same green shade of a snake and I had seen once. Slithering across the yard near the hibiscus bushes, the gardener had said it was a harmless garden snake. Kambili, you must confess all your sins. Yes, Father, I have. It is wrong to hide from the Lord. I'll give you a moment to think. I nodded and stared back at the wall. Was there something I had done that Father Benedict knew about that I did not know? Had Papa told him something? I spent more than 15 minutes at my grandfather's house. I said finally, my grandfather is a pagan. Did you eat any of the native food sacrificed to idols? No, Father. Did you participate in any pagan rituals? No, Father. I paused, but we look at masquerades. Did you enjoy that? I look up at the photo on the wall and wonder if the Pope himself had actually signed it. Yes, Father. You understand that it is wrong to take joy in pagan rituals because it breaks the first commandment. Pagan rituals are misinformed superstition and they are the gateway to hell. Do you understand that then? Yes, Father. From your penance, say the Our Father 10 times, Hail Mary 6 times, and the Apostles' Creed once. And you must make a conscious effort to convert everyone who enjoy the ways of eatings Yes, Father. All right then, make the act of contrition. While I recited the act of contrition, Father Benedict murmured blessings and made the sign of the cross. Papa and Mama were still sitting on the sofa, head bent when I came out. I sat next to Jaja, bent my head, and made my penance. As we drove home, Papa talked loudly above the Ave Maria. I am spotless now. We are all spotless. If God calls us right now, we are going straight to heaven. Straight to heaven. We will not require the cleansing of purgatory. He was smiling, his eyes bright. His hand gently drumming the steering wheel. And he was still smiling when he called Auntie Ifeoma's son after we got back home, before he had his tea. I discussed it with Father Benedict, and he says the children can go on pilgrimage to Akwe, but you must make it clear that what is happening there has not been verified by the church. A pause. My driver, Kevin, will take them. A pause. Tomorrow is too soon. The day after, a long pause. Oh, all right. God bless you and the children. Bye. Papa put the phone down and turned to us. You will leave tomorrow, so go up and pack your things. Pack for 5 days. Yes, Papa, Jaja and I said together. Maybe Anam Asi, Mama said, they should not visit Ifeoma's house empty-handed. Papa stared at her as if surprised that she had spoken. We put some food in the car, of course, yams and rice, he said. Ifeoma mentioned that gas cylinders were scarce in Nsukka. Gas cylinders, yes, cooking gas. She said she uses her old kerosene stove now. You must remember the story of adulterated kerosene that was blowing up stoves and killing people. I thought maybe you might send 1 or 2 gas cylinders to her from the factory. Is that what you and Ifeoma planned? But I'm just making a suggestion. It is up to you to decide. Papa examined Mama's face for a while. Okay, he said. He turned back to Jaja and me. Go up and pack your things. You can take 20 minutes from your study time. We climbed the curving stairs slowly. I wonder if Jaja's stomach rumbled at the lower part like mine did. It was the first time in our lives that we will be sleeping outside home without Papa. Do you want to go to Nsukka? I asked when we got to the landing. Yes, he said, and his eyes said that he knew I did too. And I could not find a word in our eyes language to tell him how my throat tightening at the thought of 5 days without Papa's voice, without his footsteps on the stairs. The next morning, Kevin brought 2 full gas cylinders from Papa's factory and put them into the boot of the Fobo alongside bags of rice and beans, a few yams, bunches of green plantains, and pineapples. Jaja and I stood by the hibiscus bushes, waiting. The gardener was clipping away at the bougainvillea, taming the flowers that defiantly stuck out of the level top. He had raked underneath the frangipani trees, and dead leaves and pink flowers lay in piles, ready for the wheelbarrow. Here are your schedules for the week you will stay in Nsukka, Papa said. The sheet of paper he thrust into my hand was similar to the schedule pasted above my study desk upstairs, except he had penciled in 2 hours of time with your cousins each day. The only day you are excused from that schedule is when you go to Akwe with your aunt, Papa said. When he hugged Jaja and them in, his hands were shaking. I have never been without you two for more than a day. I did not know what to say, but Jaja nodded and said, we will see you in a week. Kevin, drive carefully. Do you understand? Papa asked as we got in the car. Yes, sir. Get petrol on your way back at 9th May, and don't forget to bring me the receipt. Yes, sir. Papa asked us to get out of the car. He hugged us both again, smoothed the back of our necks, and asked us not to forget to say the full 15 decades of the rosary during the drive. Mama hugged us one more time before we got back in the car. Papa is still waving, Jaja said, as Kevin nosed the car up the driveway. He was looking in the mirror above his head. He's crying, I said. The gardener is waving too, Jaja said, and I wonder if he had really not had me. I pulled my rosary from my pocket, kissed the crucifix, and started the prayer. Chapter 7. I looked out of the window as we drove. counting the blackened hulks of cars on the roadside. Some left for so long they were covered with reddish rust. I wonder about the people who had been inside, how they had felt just before the accident, before the smashing glass and crunch metal and leaping flames. I did not concentrate on any of the glorious mysteries, and I knew that Jaja did not either, because he kept forgetting when it was his turn to start a decade of the rosary. About 40 minutes into the drive, I saw a sign on the roadside that read University of Nigeria, Nsukka, and I asked Kevin if we were almost there. No, he said, a little while longer. Near the turn of Opi, the dust-covered church and church sign read Opi, we came to a police checkpoint. Old tires and nail-stud logs were strewn across most of the road, leaving only a narrow space. A policeman flagged us down as we approached. Kevin groaned. Then, as he slowed, he reached into the glove compartment and pulled out a 10 naira note and flung it out of the window towards the policeman. The policeman gave a mock salute, smiled, and waved us through. Kevin would not have done that if Papa had been in the car. When policemen or soldiers stopped Papa, he spent so long showing them all his car papers, letting them search his car, anything but bribe them to let him pass. It cannot be part of what we fight, he often told us. We are entering the town of Nsukka, Kevin said a few minutes later. We were driving past the markets, the crowded roadside stores with their sparse shelves of goods threatening to spill over onto a thin strip of road already full of double-parked cars, hawkers with trays balanced on their heads, motorcyclists, boys pushing wheelbarrows full of yams, women holding baskets, beggars looking up from their mats and waving. Kevin drove slowly now. Potholes suddenly materialized in the middle of the road, and he followed the swerving motion of the car ahead of us. When we came to a point just past the market where the road had narrowed, eaten away by erosion at the sides, he stopped for a while to let other cars go by. We are at the university, he said, finally. A wide arc towered over us, bearing the words, University of Nigeria, Nsukka, in black, cut-out metal. The gates underneath the arch were flung wide open and manned by security men in dark brown uniforms and matching berets. Kevin stopped and rolled down the windows. Good afternoon. Please, how can we get to Margaret Cartwright Avenue? He asked. The security man closest to us, his facial skin creased like a rumpled dress, asked, how are you? Before he told Kevin that Margaret Cartwright Avenue was very close. We had only to keep straight and then make a right at the first junction and an almost immediate left. Kevin thanked him and we drove off. A lawn the color of spinach splashed across the side of the road. I turned to stare at the statue in the middle of the lawn, a black lion standing on its hind legs, tail curved upward, chest puffed out. I did not realize Jaja was looking too, until he read aloud the words inscribed on the pedestal, to restore the dignity of man. Then, as though I could not tell, he added, it is the university motto. Margaret Cartwright Avenue was bordered by tall melina trees. I imagined the trees bending through a rainy season thunderstorms, reaching across to touch each other and turning the avenue into a dark tunnel. The duplexes with gravel-covered driveways and beware of dog signs in the front yard soon gave way to bungalows with driveways the length of 2 cars and then blocks of flats with wide stretch of space in front of them instead of driveways. Kevin drove slowly, muttering Auntie Ifeoma's house number as if that would make us find it sooner. It was in the 4th block we came to, a tall, bland building with peeling blue paint and with television areas sticking out from the verandas. It had 3 flats on each side, and Auntie Ifeoma's was on the ground floor on the left. In front was a circular burst of bright colors, a garden fenced around with barbed wire. Roses and hibiscus and lilies and axora and cotton grew side by side like a hand-painted wreath. Auntie Ifeoma emerged from the flat in a pair of shorts, rubbing her hands over the front of her t-shirt. The skin at her knees was very dark. Jaja can't believe she barely waited for us to climb out of the car before hugging us, squeezing us close together so we both fit in the stretch of her arms. Good afternoon, ma. Kevin greeted before he went around to open the boot. Auntie Ifeoma said, "Those agents think we are starving? Even a bag of rice." Kevin smiled. Oga said, it is to greet you, ma." Hey, Auntie yelped, looking into the boot. "Gas cylinders? Oh, Inwuye should not have bothered herself so much." Then Auntie Ifeoma did a little dance, moving her arms in rolling motions, throwing each leg in front of her and stamping down hard. Kevin stood by and rubbed his hands together in pleasure, as if he had orchestrated a big surprise. He hoisted a gas cylinder out of the boot, and Jaja helped him carry it into the flat. "Your cousins will be back soon." They went out to say happy birthday to Father Amadi. He's our friend and he works at our chaplaincy. "I have been cooking. I even killed a chicken for you too." Auntie Ifeoma laughed and pulled me to her. She smelled of nutmeg. "Where do we place this, ma?" Kevin asked. Just leave the things on the veranda. Amaka and Obiora will put them away later." Auntie Ifeoma still held on to me as we entered the living room. I noticed the ceiling first, how low it was. I felt I could reach out and touch it. It was so unlikely home, where the high ceilings gave our rooms an eerie stillness. The pungent fumes of kerosene smoke mixed with the aroma of curry and nutmeg from the kitchen. "Let me see if my jollof rice is burning," Auntie Ifeoma dashed into the kitchen. I sat down on the brown sofa. The seams of the cushions were frayed and slipping apart. It was the only sofa in the living room. Next to it were cane chairs softened with brown cushions. The center table was cane too, supporting an oriental vase with pictures of kimono-clad dancing women. 3 long stem roses, so piercingly red I wonder if they were plastic, were in the vase. "Ine, don't behave like a guest. Come in, come in," Auntie Ifeoma said, coming out from the kitchen. I followed her down a short hallway lined with crown bookshelves. The grey wood looked as though it would collapse if just one more book were added. Each book looked clean. They were all either read often or dust often. "This is my room. I sleep with Chima," Auntie Ifeoma said, opening the first door. Cartons and bags of rice were stacked against the wall near the door. A tray held giant tins of dried milk and bonfita. Near a study table with a reading lamp, bottles of medicine and books. At another corner, suitcases were piled on top of one another. Auntie Ifeoma led the way to another room with 2 beds along one wall. They were pushed together to create space for more than 2 people. 2 dressers, a mirror, and a study desk and chair managed to fit in also. I wondered where Jaja and I would be sleeping, and as if Auntie Ifeoma had read my thoughts, she said, "You and Amaka will sleep here, Ine. Obiora sleeps in the living room, so Jaja will stay with him." I heard Kevin and Jaja come into the flat. "We have finished bringing the things in, ma. I am leaving now," Kevin said. He spoke from the living room, but the flat was so small he did not have to raise his voice. "Tell Egin I said thank you. Tell him we are well. Drive carefully." "Yes, ma." I watched Kevin leave, and suddenly my chest felt tight. I wanted to run after him, to tell him to wait while I got my bag and got back in the car. "Ine, Jaja, come and join me in the kitchen until your cousins come back." Auntie Ifeoma sounded so casual, as if it were completely normal to have us visit, as if we had visited so many times in the past. Jaja led the way into the kitchen and sat down on a low wooden stool. I stood by the door, because there was hardly enough room in the kitchen not to get in her way, and she drained rice at the sink, checked on the cooking meat, blended tomatoes in a mortar. The light blue kitchen tiles were worn and chipped at the corners, but they looked scrubbed clean, as did the pots, whose lids did not fit, one side slipping quickly into the pot. The kerosene stove was on a wooden table by the window. The walls near the window and the threadbare curtains had turned black away from the kerosene smoke. Auntie Ifeoma chattered as she put the rice back on the stove and chopped 2 purple onions, a stream of sentences punctuated by a cracking laughter. She seemed to be laughing and crying at the same time, because she reached up often to brush away the onion tears with the back of her hand. Our children came in a few minutes later. They looked different, maybe because I was seeing them for the first time in their home rather than in Aba, where they were a visitor in Papa-Unukwa's house. Obera took off a dark pair of sunglasses and slipped them in the pockets of his shorts as they came in. He laughed when he saw me. Jaja and Kambili are here. Chima peeped. We all hugged in greetings, brief claps of our bodies. Amaka barely let her size meet mine before she backed away. She was wearing lipstick, a different shade that was more red than brown, and her dress was molded to her lean body. How was the drive down here? She asked, looking at Jaja. Fine, Jaja said. I thought it would be longer than it was. Oh, Enugu really is not that far from here, Amaka said. We still haven't bought the soft drinks, Mom, Obiora said. Did I not tell you to buy them before you left? Auntie Ifeoma slid the onion slices into hot oil and stepped back. I will go now. Jaja, do you want to come with me? We are just going to kiosks in the next compound. Don't forget to take empty bottles, Auntie Ifeoma said. I watched Jaja lift with Obiora. I could not see his face, could not tell if he felt as bewildered as I did. Let me go and change, Mom, and I will fry the plantains, Amaka said, turning to leave. Ine, go with your cousin, Auntie Ifeoma said to me. I followed Amaka to her room, placing one frightening foot after the next. The cement floors were rough, did not let my feet glide over them the way the smooth marble floors back home did. Amaka took her earrings off, placed them on top of the dressers, and looked at herself in the full-length mirror. I sat on the edge of the bed, watching her, wondering if she knew that I had followed her into the room. I am sure you think Nsukka is uncivilized compared to Enugu, she said, still looking in the mirror. I told Mom to stop forcing you both to come. We wanted to come. Amaka smiled into the mirror, a thin, patronizing smile that seems to say I should not have bothered lying to her. There is no happening place in Nsukka, in case you haven't realized that already. Nsukka has no Genesis or Nike Lake. What? Genesis and Nike Lake, the happening places in Enugu. You go there all the time, don't you? No. Amaka gave me an odd look. But you go once in a while. Yes. I have never been to the restaurant Genesis and only been to the hotel Nike Lake when Papa's business partner had a wedding reception there. We had stayed only long enough for Papa to take pictures with the couple and give them a present. Amaka picked up the comb and ran it through the ends of her short hair. Then she turned to me and asked, why do you lower your voice? What? You lower your voice when you speak. You talk in whispers. Oh, I said, my eyes focused on the desk, which was full of things. Books, a cracked mirror, felt tip pens. Amaka pulled the comb down and pulled her dress over her head. In her white lazy bra and light blue underwear, she looked like a Hausa goat, brown, long, and lean. I quickly averted my gaze. I have never seen anyone undressed. It was sinful to look upon another person's nakedness. I am sure there is nothing close to the sound system in your room, Enugu, Amaka said, pointing at the small cassette player at the foot of the dresser. I wanted to tell her that I did not have any kind of music system in my room back home. But I was not sure she would be pleased to hear that, just as she would not be pleased to hear if I did have one. She turned the cassette player on, nodding to the polyphonic beat of drums. I listen mostly to indigenous musicians. They are culturally conscious. They have something really to say. Fela and Osadebe and Oyeka are my favorites. Oh, I'm sure you probably don't know who they are. I'm sure you are into America pop like other teenagers. She said teenagers as if she were not one. As if teenagers were a brand of people who, by not listening to cultural conscious music, were a step beneath her. And she said culturally conscious in the proud way that people say a word they never knew they will learn until they do. I sat on the edge of the bed, hands clasped, wanting to tell Amaka that I did not own a cassette player, that I could hardly tell any kinds of pop music apart. Did you paint this? I asked instead. The watercolor painting of a woman with a child was much like a copy of the Virgin and child oil painting that hung in Papa's bedroom, except the woman and child in Amaka's painting were dark-skinned. Yes, I paint sometimes. It is nice. I wish that I had known that my cousin painted realistic watercolors. I wish that she would not keep looking at me as if I were a strange laboratory animal to be explained and catalogued. Did something hold you guys in there? Auntie Ifeoma called from the kitchen. I followed Amaka back to the kitchen and watched her slice and fry the plantains. Jaja soon come back with the boys, the bottle of soft drinks in a black plastic bag. Auntie Ifeoma asked Obiora to set the table. Today, we will treat Kambili and Jaja as guests, but from tomorrow, they will be family and join in the work, she said. The dining table was made of wood that cracked in dried weather. The outermost layer was shedding, like a molten cricket, brown slicing curling up from the surface. The dining chairs were mismatched. 4 were made of plain wood, the kind of chairs in my classroom, and the other 2 were black and padded. Jaja and I sat side by side. Auntie Ifeoma said the grace, and after my cousin said amen, I still had my eyes closed. Inne, we have finished praying. We do not say mass in the name of grace like your father does, Auntie Ifeoma said with a chuckle. I opened my eyes just in time to catch Amaka watching me. I hope Kambili and Jaja come every day so we can eat like this, chicken and soft drinks. Obea pushed at his glasses as he spoke. Mommy, I want the chicken leg, Chima said. I think these people have started to put less Coke in the bottles. Amaka said, holding her Coke bottles back to examine it. I looked down at the jollof rice, fried plantains, and half of a drumstick on my plate and tried to concentrate, tried to get the food down. The plates, too, were mismatched. Chima and Obiora used plastic ones, while the rest of us had plain glass plates, bereft of dainty flowers or silver lines. Laughter floated over my head, words spotted from everyone, often not seeking and not getting any response. We always spoke with a purpose back home, especially at the table. But my cousin seems to simply speak and speak and speak. Mom, Biko, give me the neck, Amaka said. Didn't you talk me out of the neck the last time? Auntie Ifeoma asked. And then she picked up the chicken leg on her plate and reached across to place it on Amaka's plate. When was the last time we ate chicken? Obiora asked. Stop chewing like a goat, Obiora, Auntie Ifeoma said. Goats chew differently when they ruminate and when they eat, Mom. Which do you mean? I look up to watch Obiora chewing. Kambili, is something wrong with the food? Auntie Ifeoma asked, startling me. I had felt as if I were not there, that I was just observing a table where you could say anything at any time to anyone, where the air was free for you to breathe as you wish. I like the rice. Auntie, thank you. If you like the rice, eat the rice, Auntie Ifeoma said. Maybe it is not as good as the fancy rice she eats at home, Amaka said. Amaka, leave your cousin alone, Auntie Ifeoma said. I did not say anything else until lunch was over, but I listened to every word spoken. followed every cackle of laughter and line of banter. Mostly my cousin did the talking, and Auntie Ifeoma sat back and watched them eating slowly. She looked like a football coach who had done a good job with her team and was satisfied to stand next to the 18-yard box and watch. After lunch, I asked Amaka where I could ease myself, although I knew that the toilet was the door opposite the bedroom. She seemed irritated by my question and gestured vaguely toward the hall, asking, where else do you think? The room was so narrow, I could touch both walls if I stretched out my hands. There were no soft rocks, no furry cover for the toilet seat and lid like we had back home. An empty plastic bucket was near the toilet. After I urinated, I wanted to flush, but the cistern was empty. The lever went limply up and down. I stood in the narrow room for a few minutes before leaving to look for Auntie Ifeoma. She was in the kitchen, scrubbing the sides of the kerosene stove with a soapy sponge. I will be very miserly with my new gas cylinders, Auntie Ifeoma said, smiling when she saw me. I will use them only for special meals, so they will last long. I'm not packing away this kerosene stove just yet. I paused because what I wanted to say was so far removed from gas cookers and kerosene stoves. I could hear Obiora's laughter from the veranda. Auntie, there is no water to flush the toilet. You urinated? Yes. Our water only runs in the morning. Odiegu, so we don't flush when we urinate. Only when there is actually something to flush. Or sometimes when the water does not run for a few days, we just close the lid until everybody has gone, and then we flush it with one bucket. It saves water. Auntie Ifeoma was smiling ruefully. Oh, I said. Emeka had come in as Auntie Ifeoma spoke. I watched her walk to the refrigerator. I'm sure that back home you flush every hour just to keep the water fresh. But we don't do that here, she said. Amaka Ogini, I don't like that tone, Auntie Ifeoma said. Sorry, Amaka muttered, pouring cold water from a plastic bottle into a glass. I moved closer to the wall, darkened by kerosene smoke, wishing I could blend into it and disappear. I wanted to apologize to Amaka, but I was not sure what for. Tomorrow, we will take Kambili and Jaja around to show them the campus, Auntie Ifeoma said, sounding so normal that I wonder if I had just imagined the raised voice. There is nothing to see. They will be bored. The phone rang then, loud and jeering, unlike the muted purr of ours back home. Auntie Ifeoma hurried to her bedroom to pick it up. Kambili, Jaja, she called out a moment later. I knew it was Papa. I waited for Jaja to come in from the veranda so we could go in together. When we got to the phone, Jaja stood back and gestured that I speak first. Hello, Papa. Good evening, I said. And then I wondered if he could tell that I had eaten after saying a too-short prayer. How are you? Fine, Papa. The house is empty without you. Oh, do you need anything? No, Papa. Call at once if you need anything. I will send Kevin. I will call every day. Remember to study and pray. Yes, Papa. When Mama came on the line, her voice sounded louder than her usual whisper. Or perhaps it was just the phone. She told me Sisi had forgotten we were away and cooked lunch for 4. When Jaja and I sat down to have dinner that evening, I thought about Papa and Mama sitting alone at our wide dining table. We had the leftover rice and chicken. We drank water because the soft drinks bought in the afternoon were finished. I thought about the always full crates of Coke and Fanta and Sprite in the kitchen store back home, and then quickly gulped my water down as if I could wash away the thoughts. I knew that if Amaka could read thoughts, mine would not please her. There was less talk and laughter at the diner because the TV was on and my cousin took their plate to the living room. The other two ignored the sofa and chairs to settle on the floor, while Chima curled up on the sofa, balancing his plastic plate on his lap. Auntie Ifeoma asked Jaja and me to go and sit in the living room too, so we could see the TV clearly. I waited to hear Jaja say no, that we did not mind sitting at the dining table, but I nodded in agreement. Auntie Ifeoma sat with us, glancing often at the TV as she ate. I don't understand why they fill our television with second-rate Mexican show and ignore all the potential our people have, she muttered. Mom, please don't lecture now, Amaka said. It is cheaper to import soap operas from Mexico, Obiora said, his eyes still glued to the television. Auntie Ifeoma stood up. Jaja and Kambili, we usually say the rosary every night before bed. Of course, you can stay up as long as you want afterward to watch TV or whatever else. Jaja shifted on his chair before pulling his schedule out of his pocket. Auntie, Papa's schedule says we should study in the evenings. We brought our books. Auntie Ifeoma stared at the paper in Jaja's hand. Then she started to laugh so hard that she staggered, her tall body bending like a whistling pine tree on a windy day. Edwin gave you a schedule to follow when you are here. Inkwanu Anya, what does that mean? Auntie Ifeoma laughed some more before she held out her hand and asked for the sheet of paper. When she turned to me, I brought mine, folded in crisp quarters, out of my skirt pocket. I will keep them for you until you leave. Auntie, Jaja started. If you do not tell your father, then how will he know that you did not follow the schedule? You are on holiday here and it is my house, so you will follow my own rules. I watched Auntie Ifeoma walk into our room with our schedules. My mouth felt dry, my tongue clinging to the roof. Do you have a schedule at home that you follow every day? Amaka asked. She lay face up on the floor, her head resting on one of the cushions from a chair. Yes, Jaja said. Interesting. So now rich people can't decide what to do day by day. They need a schedule to tell them. Amaka, Obira shouted. Auntie Ifeoma came out holding a rouge rosary with blue beads and a metal crucifix. Obira turned off the TV as the credits started to slide down the screen. Obira and Amaka went to get their rosaries from the bedroom, while Jaja and I slipped out of our pockets. We knelt next to the cane chairs, and Auntie Ifeoma started the first decade. After we said the last Hail Mary, my head snapped back when I heard the raised, melodious voice Amaka was singing. Auntie Ifeoma and Obiora joined her, their voices melding. My eyes met Jaja's. His eyes were watery, suggestions. No, I told him with a tight blink. It was not right. You do not break into song in the middle of the rosary. I did not join in the singing, and neither did Jaja. Amaka broke into song at the end of each decade, uplifting Igbo songs that made Auntie Ifeoma singing echoes, like an opera singer drawing the words from the pit of her stomach. After the rosary, Auntie Ifeoma asked if we knew any of the songs. We don't sing at home, Jaja answered. We do here, Auntie Ifeoma said, and I wonder if it was irritation that made her lower her eyebrows. Obiora turned on the TV after Auntie Ifeoma said goodnight and went into her bedroom. I sat on the sofa next to Jaja, watching the image on TV, but I couldn't tell the olive skin characters apart. I felt as if my shadow were visiting Auntie Ifeoma and her family, while the real me was studying in my room in Enugu. My schedule posted above me. I stood up shortly and went into the bedroom to get ready for bed. Even though I did not have the schedule, I knew what time Papa had penciled in for bed. I fell off to sleep wondering when Amaka would come in, if her lips would turn down at the corners in the stair when she looked at me sleeping. I dreamed that Amaka submerged me in a toilet bowl full of greenish brown lumps. First, my head went in, and then the bowl expanded so that my whole body went into. Amaka chanted, flush, flush, flush. while I struggled to break free. I was still struggling when I woke up. Amaka had rolled out of bed and was knotting her wrapper over her night dress. "We are going to fetch water at the tap," she said. She did not ask me to come, but I got up, tightened my wrapper, and followed her. Dada and Obiora were already at the tap in the tiny backyard. Tires and bicycle parts and broken trunks were piled in the corner. Obiora placed the containers under the tap, aligning the open mouth with the rushing water. Dada offered to take the first filled container back to the kitchen, but Obiora said not to worry and took it in. While Amaka took the next, Dada placed a small container under the tap and filled it. He had slept in the living room. He told me on a mattress that Obiora unrolled from behind the bedroom door and covered with a wrapper. I listened to him and marveled at the wonders in his voice, at how much lighter the brand of his puppies was. I offered to carry the next container, but Amaka laughed and said I had soft bones and could not carry it. When we finished, we said morning prayers in the living room, a string of short prayers punctuated by songs. Auntie Ifeoma prayed for the university, for the lecturers and administration, for Nigeria, and finally, she prayed that we might find peace and laughter today. As we made the sign of the cross, I looked up to seek out Jaja's face, to see if he too was bewildered by Auntie Ifeoma and her family pray for, of all things, laughter. We took turns bathing in the narrow bathroom with half-full buckets of water, warmed for a while with a heating coil plugged into them. The spotless tub had a triangular hole at one corner, and the water groaned like a man in pain as it drained. I lathered over with my own sponge and soap. Mama had carefully packed my toiletries, and although I scooped the water with a shallow cup and poured it slowly over my body, I still felt sleepy as I stepped on the old towel placed on the floor. Auntie Ifeoma was at the dining table when I came out, dissolving a few spoonfuls of dried milk in a jug of cold water. "If I let these children take the milk themselves, it will not last a week," she said, before taking the tin of Carnation dried milk back to the safety of her room. I hope that Amaka will not ask me if my mother did that too, because I would stutter if I had to tell her that we took as much creamy pig milk as we wanted back home. Breakfast was okpa that Obiora had dashed out to buy from somewhere nearby. I had never had okpa for a meal, only for a snack, when we sometimes bought the steam cooked cowpea and palm oil cakes on the drive to Aba. I watched Amaka and Auntie Ifeoma cut up the moist yellow cake and do the same. Auntie Ifeoma asked us to hurry up. She wanted to show Jaja and me the campus and get back in time to cook. She had invited Father Amadi to dinner. "Are you sure there is enough fuel in the car, Mom?" Obiora asked. "Enough to take us around campus, at least. I really hope fuel comes in the next week. Otherwise, when we resume, I will have to walk to my lectures." "Or take Okada," Amaka said, laughing. "I will try that soon at this rate." "What are Okada?" Jaja asked. I turned to stare at him, surprised. I did not think he would ask that question or any other question. "Motorcycles," Obiora said. "They have become more popular than taxis." Auntie Ifeoma stopped to pluck at some brown leaves in the garden as we walked to the car, muttering that the harmattan was killing our plants. Amaka and Obiora groaned and said, "Not the garden now, Mom." "That is a hibiscus, isn't it, Auntie?" Jaja asked, staring at a plant close to the barbed wire fencing. I did not know there were purple hibiscuses. Auntie Ifeoma laughed and touched the flower, colored a deep shade of purple that was almost blue. Everybody has that reaction the first time. My good friend Philippa is a lecturer in botany. She did a lot of experimental work while she was here. Look, here is white Axora, but it doesn't bloom as fully as the red. Jaja joined Auntie Ifeoma while we stood watching them. Oh, Maka, so beautiful, Jaja said. He was running a finger over a flower pattern. Auntie Ifeoma's laughter lengthened to a few more syllables. Yes, it is. I had to fence my garden because the neighborhood children came in and plucked many of the more unusual flowers. Now, I only let in the altar guests from our church or the Protestant church. Mom, Osugo, let's go, Amaka said. But Auntie Ifeoma spent a little longer showing Jaja her flowers before we piled into the station wagon and she drove off. The street she turned into was steep and she switched the ignition off and let the car roll. Loose bolt rattling. To save fuel, she said, turning briefly to Jaja and me. The houses we drove past had sunflower edges, and the palm-sized flowers brightened the foliage in big yellow polka dots. The edges had many gaping holes, so I could see the backyard of the houses, the metal water tanks balanced on unpainted cement blocks, the old tire swings hanging from guava trees, the clothes spread out on lines tied tree to tree. At the end of the street, Auntie Ifeoma turned the ignition on because the road had become level. That is the university primary school, she said. That is where Chima goes. It used to be so much better, but now look at all the missing louvers in the windows. Look at the dirty buildings. The wide schoolyard, enclosed by a trimmed whistling pine hedge, was cluttered with long buildings as if they had all sprung up at will, unplanned. Auntie Ifeoma pointed at a building next to the school, the Institute of African Studies, where her office was and where she taught most of her classes. The building was old, I could tell from the color and from the windows, coated with the dust of so many harmattans that they would never shine again. Auntie Ifeoma drove through a roundabout planted with pink periwinkles flowers and lined with bricks painted alternating black and white. On the side of the road, a field stretched out like green bed lining, dotted by mango trees with faded leaves struggling to retain their color against the drying wind. That is the field where we have our bazaars, Auntie Ifeoma said. And over there are female hostess. There is Mary Slezer Hall, over there is Okpara Hall, and this is Bello Hall, the most famous hostel, where Amaka has sworn she will live when she enters the university and launches her activist movement. Amaka laughed, but did not dispute Auntie Ifeoma. Maybe you two will be together, can't believe. I nodded stiffly, although Auntie Ifeoma could not see me. I had never thought about the university, where I will go or what I will study. When the time came, Papa would decide. Auntie Ifeoma horned and waved at two baddie men in tie-dye shirts, standing at a corner as she turned. She switched the ignition off again and the car uttered down the street. Melina and dongoyaro trees stood firmly on either side. The sharp, astringent scent of the dongoyaro leaves filled the car, and Amaka breathed deeply and said they cure malaria. We were in a residential area, driving past bungalows in wide compounds with rose bushes and faded lawns and fruit trees. The street gradually lost its tar smoothness and its cultivated edges, and the houses became low and narrow. Their front doors so close together that you could stand at one, stretch out, and touch the next door. There were no pretense at edges here, no pretense at separation or privacy, just low buildings side by side amid a scattering of stunted shrubs and cashew trees. These were the junior staff quarters, where the secretaries and drivers lived, Auntie Ifeoma explained, and Amaka added, if they are lucky enough to get it. We are just driving past the buildings when Auntie Ifeoma pointed to the right and said, "There is Odim Hill. The view from the top is breathtaking. When you stand there, you see just how God laid out the hills and valley." Ezioku, when she made a U-turn and went back the way we had come, I let my mind drift. Imagine God laying out the hill of Nsukka with his wide white hands, crescent moon shadows underneath his nails, just like Father Benedict. We drove past the study trees around the Faculty of Engineering, past the vast mango fields around the female hostels. Auntie Ifeoma turned the opposite way when she got close to our street. She wanted to show us the other side of Margaret Cartwright Avenue, where the seasoned professors lived, with the duplexes hemmed in by gravelly driveways. I hear that when they first built these houses, some of the white professors, all the professors were white back then, wanted chimney and fireplaces. Auntie Ifeoma said, with the same kind of indulgent laugh that Mama let out when she talked about people who went to witch doctors. She then pointed to the Vice Chancellor Lodge, to the high walls surrounding it, and said it used to have well-tended edges of cherry and ixoras until rioting students jumped over the edges and burned a car in the compound. What was the riot about? Jaja asked. Light and water, Obiora said, and I looked at him. There was no light and no water for a month. Auntie Ifeoma added. The students said they could not study and asked if the exam could be rescheduled, but they were refused. The walls are hideous, Amaka said in English, and I wonder what she would think of our compound walls back home if she ever visited us. The VC's walls were not very high. I could see the big duplex that nestled behind a canopy of trees with greenish yellow leaves. Putting up walls is a superficial fix. Anyway, she continued, if I were the VC, the student will not riot. They will have water and light. If some big man in Abuja has stolen the money, is the VC supposed to vomit money for Nsukka? Obiora asked. I turned to watch him. Imagine myself at 14. Imagining myself now. I wouldn't mind if somebody vomiting some money for me right now. Auntie Ifeoma said, laughing in that proud coach watching the team way. We go into town to see if there is any decently priced ube in the market. I know Father Amadi is like ube, and we have some corn at home to go with it. With the fuel, make it, Mom? Obiora asked. Amarom, we can try it. Auntie Ifeoma rode the car down the road that led to the university entrance gates. Jaja turned to the statue of the praying lion as we drove past it, his lips moving soundlessly to restore the dignity of man. Obiora was reading the Pleku too. He let out a short cackle and asked, but when did man lose his dignity? Outside the gate, Auntie Ifeoma started the ignition again. When the car shuddered without starting, she muttered, Blessed Mother, please not now, and tried again. The car only whined. Somebody on behind us, and I turned to look at the woman in the yellow Peugeot 504. She came out and walked toward us. She wore a pair of clothes that flapped around her calves, which were lumpy like sweet potatoes. My own car stopped near Eastern Shop yesterday. The woman stood at Auntie Ifeoma's window, her hair in a riotous coily palm swaying in the wind. My son sucked 1 liter from my husband's car this morning, just so I can get to the market. Oh Diego, I hope fuel comes soon. Let us wait and see, my sister. How is the family? Auntie Ifeoma asked. We are all well. Go well. Let's push it, Obiora suggested, already opening the car door. Wait. Auntie Ifeoma turned the key again, and the car shook and then started. She drove again with a screech, as if she did not want to slow down and give the car another chance to stop. We stopped beside an ube alka by the roadside. A bluish fruit display in prime mint on an inanimate tray. Auntie Ifeoma gave Amaka some crumpled notes for her purse. Amaka bargained with the trader for a while, and then she smiled and pointed at the prime mint she wanted. I wonder what it felt like to do that. Back in the flat, I joined Auntie Ifeoma and Amaka in the kitchen while Jaja went off with Obiora to play football with the children from the flat upstairs. Auntie Ifeoma got one of the huge yams we had brought from home. Amaka spread newspaper sheets on the floor to slice the tuber. It was easier than picking it up and placing it on the counter. When Amaka put the yam slices in the plastic bowl, I offered to help peel them, and she silently handed me a knife. You will like Father Amadi Kambili, Auntie Ifeoma said. He is new at our charm place, but he is so popular with everybody on campus already. He has invitation to eat in everybody's house. I think he connects with our family the most, Amaka said. Auntie Ifeoma laughed. Amaka is so protective of him. You are wasting yam, Kambili, Amaka snapped. Ah, is that how you peel yam in your house? I jumped and dropped the knife. It fell an inch away from my foot. Sorry, I said, and I was not sure if it was for dropping the knife or for letting too much creamy white yam go with the brown peel. Auntie Ifeoma was watching us. Amaga, Ngwa, show Kambili how to peel it. Amaka looked at her mother with her lips turned down and her eyebrows raised, as if she could not believe that anybody ought to be told how to peel yam slices properly. She picked up the knife and started to peel a slice, letting only the brown skin go. I watched the measured movement of her hand and the increasing length of the peel, wishing I could apologize, wishing I knew how to do it right. She did it so well that the peel did not break, a continuous twirling, soil-spotted ribbon. Maybe I should enter it in your schedule, how to peel a yam. Amaka muttered. Amaka, Auntie Ifeoma shouted, Kambili, get me some water from the tank outside. I picked up the bucket, grateful for Auntie Ifeoma for the chance to leave the kitchen and Amaka's scowling face. Amaka did not talk much the rest of the afternoon until Father Amadi arrived in a whiff of her earthy cologne. Chima jumped on him and held on. He shook Obira's hand. Auntie Ifeoma and Amaka gave him brief hugs, and then Auntie Ifeoma introduced Jaja and me. Good evening, I said, and they added, Father, it felt almost sacrilegious and addressing this boyish man in an open-neck t-shirt and jeans faded so much I could not tell if they had been black or dark blue, as Father Kambili and Jaja, he said, as if he had met us before. How are you enjoying your first visit to Nsukka? They ate it, Amaka said, and I immediately wish she had not. Nsukka has its charms, Father Amadi said, smiling. He had a singer's voice, a voice that had the same effect on my ears that Mama walking Pierre's baby oiled into my ear and had on my scalp. I did not fully comprehend his English-laced Igbo sentences at dinner because my ears followed the sound and not the sense of his speech. He nodded as he chewed his yam and grins, and did not speak until he had swallowed a mouthful and sipped some water. He was at home in Auntie Ifeoma's house. He knew which chair had a protruding nail and could pull a thread of your clothes. I thought I knocked that nail in, he said. Then talked about football with Obiora, the journalist the government had just arrested with Amaka, the Catholic Women's Organization with Auntie Ifeoma, and the neighborhood video game with Chima. My cousins chattered as much as before, but they waited until Father Amadi said something first, and then pounced on it in response. I thought of the fattened chickens Papa sometimes bought for our offertory possession. the ones we took to the altars in addition to communion wine and yams and sometimes goats. The ones we let stroll around the backyard until Sunday morning. The chicken rushed at the pieces of bread Sisi threw to them, disorderly and enthusiastic. My cousin rushed at Father Amadi's word in the same way. Father Amadi included Jaja and me in the conversation, asking us questions. I knew the questions were meant for both of us because he used the plural you, unu, rather than the singular gi. Yet I remained silent, grateful for Jaja's answer. He asked where we went to school, what subjects we like, if we play any sport. When he asked what church we went to in Enugu, Jaja told him. St. Anglins, I visited there once to say Mass, Father Amadi said. I remember then the young visiting priest who had broken into song in the middle of his sermon, whom Papa had said we had to pray for because people like him were trouble for the church. There had been many other visiting priests through the month, but I knew it was him. I just knew. And I remember the song he had sung. Did you? Auntie Ifeoma asked. My brother almost single-handedly finances that church. Lovely church. Chelukwa, wait a minute. Your brother is Egnu Achike, the publisher of the Standard. Yes, Egnu is my elder brother. I thought I would mention it before. Auntie Ifeoma smiled, did not quite brighten her face. Ezioku, I do not know. Father Amadi shook his head. He is very involved in the editorial decisions. The Standard is the only paper that dares to tell the truth these days. Yes, Auntie Ifeoma said, and he has a brilliant editor, Adekuka. Although I wonder how much longer before they lock him up for good. Even Eggin's money will not buy everything. I was reading somewhere that Amnesty World is giving your brother an award, Father Amadi said. He was nodding slowly, admiringly, and I felt myself go warm over with pride, with a desire to be associated with Papa. I wanted to say something to remind this handsome priest that Papa was not just Auntie Ifeoma's brother or the Standard's publisher, that he was my father. I wanted some of the cloud-like warmth in Father Amadi's eyes to rub off on me, settle on me. And what? Amaka asked, bright-eyed, Mom, we should at least buy the Standard once in a while so we will know what is going on. Or we could ask for freedom copies to be sent to us if pride was swallowed. Obiora said, I did not even know about the award, Auntie Ifeoma said. Not that Edwin will tell me anyway. Igasikwa, we can't even have a conversation. After all, I had to use a pilgrimage to Akwe to get him to say yes to the children's visiting us. So you plan to go to Akwe? Father Amadi asked. I was not really planning to, but I suppose we have to go now. I will find out the next apparition date. People are making these whole apparition things up. Didn't they say Our Lady was appearing at Bishop Shana Hospital the other time? And then that she was appearing in Transekulu? Obiora asks. Akwe is different. It has all the signs of lords, Amaka said. Besides, it is about time Our Lady came to Africa. Don't you wonder how come she always appears in Europe? She was from the Middle East, after all. What is she now, the political virgin? Obiora asks, and I look at him again. He was a bold, made version of what I could never have been at 14, what I still was not. Father Amadi laughed, but she appeared in Egypt, Amaka. At least people flock there, like they are flocking to Akwe now. Oh, Bugodi, like migrating locust. You don't sound like you believe, Father. Amaka was watching him. I don't believe we have to go to Akwe or anywhere else to find her. She's here. She's within us, leading us to our son. He spoke so effortlessly, as if his mouth were a musical instrument that just let sound out when touched, when opened. But what about the Thomas inside us, Father? The part that need to see to believe, Amaka asked. She had that expression that made me wonder if she was serious or not. Father Amadi did not respond. Instead, he made a face and Amaka laughed. The gap between her teeth, wider, more angular than Auntie Ifeoma's, as if someone had pried her two front teeth apart with a metal instrument. After dinner, we all retired to the living room, and Auntie Ifeoma asked Obiora to turn the TV off so we could pray while Father Amadi was here. Chima had fallen asleep on the sofa, and Obiora leaned against him throughout the rosary. Father Amadi led the first decade, and at the end, he started an Igbo praise song. While they sang, I opened my eyes and stared at the wall, at the picture of the family at Chima's baptism. Next to it was a grainy copy of the Pieta. The wooden frame cracked at the corners. I pressed my lips together, biting my lower lip so my mouth will not join in the singing on its own, so my mouth will not betray me. We put our rosary away and sat in the living room, eating corn and ube and watching Newsline on television. I looked up to find Father Amadi's eyes on me, and I suddenly could not lick the ube flesh from the seed. I could not move my tongue, could not swallow. I was too aware of his eyes, too aware that he was looking at me, watching me. I haven't seen you laugh or smile today, Kambili, he said, finally. I looked down at my corn. I wanted to say I was sorry that I did not smile or laugh, but my words would not come. And for a while, even my ears could not hear nothing. She is shy, Auntie Ifeoma said. I muttered a word I knew was nonsense, and stood up and walked into the bedroom, making sure to close the door that led to the hallway. Father Amadi's musical voice echoed in my ears until I fell asleep. Chapter 8. Laughter always rang out in Auntie Ifeoma's house, and no matter where the laughter came from, it bounced around all the walls, all the rooms. Arguments rose quickly and fell just as quickly. Morning and night prayer were always peppered with songs, Igbo praise songs that usually call for hand clapping. Food had little meat. Each person pierced the width of 2 fingers pressed close together and the length of half a finger. The flat always sparkled. Amaka scrubbed the floors with a stiff brush. Obiora did the sweeping. Chima plumped up the cushions on the chairs. Everybody took turn washing plates. Auntie Ifeoma included Jaja and me in plate washing schedule. And after I washed the gari encrusted lunch plates, Amaka picked them off the tray where I had placed them to dry and soak them in water. Is this how you wash plates in your house? She asked. Or is plate washing not included in your fancy schedule? I stood there staring at her, wishing Auntie Ifeoma were there to speak for me. Amaka glared at me for a moment longer and then walked away. She said nothing else to me until her friends come over that afternoon, when Auntie Ifeoma and Jaja were and the boys were playing football out front. Kambili, these are my friends from school, she said casually. The 2 guests said hello, and I smiled. They had ears as short as Amaka's, wore shiny lipstick and trousers so tight I knew they would walk differently if they were wearing something more comfortable. I watched them examine themselves in the mirror, pore over an American magazine with a brown-skinned, honey-haired woman on the cover, and talk about a math teacher who did not know the answer to his own test, a girl who wore a miniskirt to evening lesson, even though she had fat yams on her legs, and a boy who was fine, not attractive. One of them stretched, wore a dangling earring on one ear, and a shining false gold stud on the other. Is it all your hair? Is it all your hair? The other one asked. and I did not realize she was referring to me until Amaka said, Kambili. I wanted to tell the girl that it was all my hair, that there was no attachment, but the words would not come. I knew they were still talking about hair, how long and thick mine looked. I wanted to talk with them, to laugh with them so much that I would start to jump up and down in one place the way they did. But my lips held stubbornly together. I did not want to stutter. So I started to cough and then ran out and into the toilet. That evening, as I set the table for dinner, I heard Amaka say, "Are you sure they are not abnormal, Mom?" Kambili just behaved like an Atulu when my friends came. Amaka had neither raised nor lowered her voice, and it drifted clearly in from the kitchen. Amaka, you are free to have your opinions, but you must treat your cousin with respect. Do you understand that? Auntie Ifeoma replied in English. Her voice firmed. I was just asking a question. Showing respect is not calling your cousin a sheep. She behaves funny. Even Jaja is strange. Something is not right with them. My hand shook as I tried to straighten a piece of the table surface that had cracked and curled tightly around itself. A line of tiny ginger-colored ants marched near it. Auntie Ifeoma had told me not to bother the ants, since they hurt no one, and you could never really get rid of them anyway. They were as old as the building itself. I looked across at the living room to see if Jaja had heard Amaka over the sound of the television, but he was engrossed in the image on the screen, lying on the floor next to Obiora. He looked as though he had been lying there, watching TV his whole life. It was the same way he looked in Auntie Ifeoma's garden the next morning, as though it was something he had been doing for a long time, rather than the few days we had been here. Auntie Ifeoma asked me to join them in the garden, to carefully pick out leaves that had started to wilt on the cutting plants. Aren't they pretty? Auntie Ifeoma asked. Look at that. Look at that, green and pink and yellow on the leaves, like God playing with paint brushes. Yes, I said. Auntie Ifeoma was looking at me, and I wondered if she was thinking that my voice lacked the enthusiasm of Jaja's when she talked about her garden. Some of the children from the flat upstairs came down and stood watching us. They were about 5, all a blur of food-stained clothes and fast words. They talked to one another and to Auntie Ifeoma, and then one of them turned and asked me what school I went to in Enugu. I stuttered and gripped hard at some fresh cotton leaves, pulling them off, watching the viscous liquid drip from their stalks. After that, Auntie Ifeoma said I could go inside if I wanted to. She told me about a book she has just finished reading. It was on the table in her room, and she was sure I would like it. So I went in her room and took a book with a faded blue cover called Equanos Travel, or The Life of Gustavus Vassa the African. I sat on the veranda with the book on my lap, watching one of the children chase a butterfly in the front yard. The butterfly dipped up and down, and its black spotted yellow wings flapped slowly, as if teasing the little girl. The girl's hair atop her head like a ball of wool bounced as she ran. Obiora was sitting on the veranda too, but outside the shade, so he squinted behind his thick glasses to keep the sun out of his eyes. He was watching the girl and the butterfly while repeating the name Jaja slowly, placing the stress on both syllables, then on the first, then on the second. Aja means sand or oracle, but Jaja, what kind of name is Jaja? It is not Igbo, he finally pronounced. My name is actually Chukwuka. Jaja is a childhood nickname that stuck. Jaja was on his knees. He wore only a pair of denim shorts, and the muzzle on his back rippled, smooth and long like the ridges he weeded. When he was a baby, all he could say was Ja Ja, So everybody called him Jaja. Auntie Ifeoma said, she turned to Jaja and added, I told your mother that it was an appropriate nickname that you will take after Jaja of Okpobo. Jaja of Okpobo, the stubborn king? Obiora asked. Deviant, Auntie Ifeoma said. He was a deviant king. What does deviant mean, Mommy? What did the king do? Chima asked. He was in the garden doing something on his knees too. Although Auntie Ifeoma often told him, Kusia, don't do that. Or if you do that again, I will give you a knock. He was the king of Okpobo people. Auntie Ifeoma said, and when the British came, he refused to let them control all the trade. He did not sell his soul for a bit of gunpowder like the other kings did. So the British exiled him to the West Indies. He never returned to Okpobo. Auntie Ifeoma continued watering the roll of tiny banana-colored flower that cluster in bunches. She held a metal watering can in her hand, tilting it to let the water out through the nozzle. She had already used up the biggest container of water we fetched in the morning. That is sad. Maybe we should not have been deviant, Chima said. He moved closer to squat next to Jaja. I wonder if he understood what exile and sold the soul for a bit of gunpowder meant. Auntie Ifeoma spoke as though she expected that he did. Being deviant can be a good thing sometimes. Auntie Ifeoma said, deviance is like marijuana. It is not a bad thing when it is used right. The solemn tone, more than the sacrilege of what she said, made me look up. Our conversation was with Chiman and Obiora, but she was looking for Jaja. Obiora smiled and pushed his glasses up. Jaja of Okpobo was no saint anyway. He sold his people into slavery, and besides, the British won in the end. So much for the deviants. The British won the war, but they lost many battles, Jaja said. And my eyes skipped over the rows of text on the page. How did Jaja do it? How could he speak so easily? Didn't he have the same bubbles of air in his throat, keeping the words back, letting out only a stutter at best? I looked up to watch him, to watch his dark skin covered with beads of sweat that gleamed in the sun. I had never seen his arm move this way, never seen this piercing light in his eyes that appeared when he was in Auntie Ifeoma's garden. What happened to your little finger? Chima asked. Dada looked down, too, as if he were just then noticing the gnarled finger deformed like a dried stick. Jaja had an accident, Auntie Ifeoma said quickly. Chima, go and get me the container of water. It is almost empty, so you can carry it. I stared at Auntie Ifeoma, and when her eyes met mine, I looked away. She knew what had happened to Jaja's finger. When he was 10, he had missed 2 questions on his test and was not named the best in his first Holy Communion class. Papa took him upstairs and locked the door. Jaja, in tears, came out supporting his left hand with his right, and Papa drove him to St. Agnes Hospital. Papa was crying too, as he carried Jaja in his arm like a baby all the way to the car. Later, Jaja told me that Papa had avoided his right hand because it is the hand he writes with. This is about to bloom, Auntie Ifeoma said to Jaja, pointing at an Ixora board. Another 2 days, and it will open its eyes to the world. I probably won't see it, Jaja said. We will be gone by then. Auntie Ifeoma smiled. Don't they say that time flies when you are happy? The phone rang then, and Auntie Ifeoma asked me to pick it up, since I was the closest to the front door. It was Mama. I knew something was wrong right away, because it was Papa who always placed the call. Besides, they did not call in the afternoon. Your father is not here, Mama said. Her voice sounds nasal, as if she needed to blow her nose. He had to leave this morning. Is he well? I asked. He is well. She paused, and I could hear her talking to Sisi. Then she came back to the phone and said that yesterday soldier had gone to the small had gone to the small non-script rooms that served as the office of the Standard. Nobody knew how they had found out where the offices were. There were so many soldiers that the people on that street told Papa it reminded them of pictures from the front during the Civil War. The soldier took every copy of the entire press run, smashed furniture and printers, locked the offices, took the keys, and boarded up the doors and windows. Adekuka was in custody again. I worry about your father, Mama said. Before I gave the phone to Jaja, I worry about your father. Auntie Ifeoma seemed worried too, because after the phone call, she went out and bought a copy of The Guardian, although she never bought newspaper. They cost too much. She read them at the paper stand when she had the time. The story of soldier closing down the Standard was tucked into the middle page, next to advertisement for women's shoe imported from Italy. Uncle Edwin would have run it on the front page of his paper, Amaka said, and I wonder if the inflection in her voice was pride. When Papa called later, he asked to talk to Auntie Ifeoma first. Afterwards, he talked to Jaja and then me. He said it was fine, that everything was fine, that he missed us and loved us very much. He did not mention the Standard or what had happened to the editorial offices. After we hung up, Auntie Ifeoma said, your father wants you to stay here a few days longer. And Jaja smiled so widely, I saw dimples I did not even know he had. The phone rang early, before any of us had taken a morning bath. My mouth went dry because I was sure it was about Papa, that something had happened to him. The soldier had gone to the house. They had shot him to make sure he would never publish anything again. I waited for Auntie Ifeoma to call Jaja and me, though I tightened my fist and willed her not to. She stayed for a few moments on the phone, and when she came out, she looked downcast. Her laughter did not ring out as often for the rest of the day, and she snapped at Chima when he wanted to sit next to her, saying, leave me alone. Nekwa Anya, you are no longer a baby. One half of her lower lip disappeared into her mouth, and her jaw quivered as she chewed. Father Amadi dropped by during dinner. He pulled a chair from the living room and sat, sipping water from a glass Amaka had brought him. I played football at the stadium, and afterward, I took some of the boys to town for akara and fried yam. He said, when Amaka asked what he had done today, why didn't you tell me you would be playing today? Father, Obiora asked, I'm sorry I forgot to, but I will pick you and Dada up next weekend so we can play. The music of his voice lowered in apology. I could not help staring at him because his voice pulled me and because I did not know a priest who could play football. It seemed so ungodly, so common. Father Amadi's eyes met mine across the table, and I looked away quickly. Perhaps Kambili will play with us also, he said. Hearing my name in his voice, in that melody, made me feel thought inside. I filled my mouth as if I might have said something, but for the food, I had to chew. Amaka used to play with us when I first came here, but now she spent her time listening to African music and dreaming unrealistic dreams. My cousins laughed, Amaka the loudest, and Jaja smiled. But Auntie Ifeoma did not laugh. She chewed her food in little bites, and her eyes were distant. Ifeoma, is something wrong? Father Amadi asked. She shook her head and sighed, as though she had just realized that she was not alone. I got a message from home today. Our father is sick. They said he did not rise well 3 mornings in a row. I want to bring him here. Ezioku, Father Amadi's bro furrowed. Yes, you should bring him here. Papa-Unukwa is sick? Amaka asked shrilly. Mom, when did you know? This morning. His neighbor called. She's a good woman. Nwangba. She went all the way to Ukpo to find a phone. You should have told us. Amaka shouted, Ogini, have I not told you now? Auntie Ifeoma snapped. When can we go to Abba Mom? Obiora asked, calmly, and at that moment, as in many others I had observed since we came, he seems so much older than Jaja. I don't have enough fuel in the car to reach even 90 miles, and I don't know when fuel will come. I cannot afford to charter a taxi. If I take public transport, how will I bring back a sick old man in those buses so packed with people your face is in the next person smelling armpit? Auntie Ifeoma shook her head. I am tired. I am so tired. We have some emergency fuel reserved in Champlain's. Father Amadi said quietly. I'm sure I could get you a gallon. Equinzina, don't sound that way. Auntie Ifeoma nodded and thanked Father Amadi, but her face did not brighten. And later, when we said the rosary, her voice did not rise when she sang. I struggled to meditate on the joyful mysteries, and all the time wondering where Papa-Unukwa would sleep when he came. There were few choices in the small flat. The living room was already full with the boys, and Auntie Ifeoma's room was so busy, serving as food store and library and bedroom for her and Chima. It would have to be the other bedroom, Amaka's and mine. I wonder if I would have to confess that I had shared a room with eating. I paused then in my meditation to pray that Papa would never find out that Papa-Unukwa had visited and that I had shared a room with him. At the end of the 5 decades, before we said the Hail Holy Queen, Auntie Ifeoma prayed for Papa-Unukwa. She asked God to stretch a healing hand over him as he had stretched over the Apostle Peter's mother-in-law. She asked the Blessed Virgin to pray for him. She asked the angels to take charge of him. My amen was a little delay, a little surprised. When Papa prayed for Papa-Unukwa, he asked only that God comforted him and saved him from the raging fires of hell. Father Amadi came early the next morning, looking even more unpriestly than before, in khaki shorts that stopped just below his knees. He had not shaved, and in the clear morning sunlight, his stubble looked like tiny dots drawn on his jaw. He parked his car next to Auntie Ifeoma's station wagon and took out a can of petrol and a garden hose that had been cut to a quarter of his length. Let me do the sucking, Father said. Father Obiora said, make sure you don't swallow, Father Amadi said. Obiora inserted one end of the nose in the can and then enclosed the other end in his mouth. I watched his cheek inflate like a balloon and then deflate. He swiftly took the hose out of his mouth and inserted it into the station's wagon petrol tank. He was sputtering and coughing. Did you swallow too much? Father Amadi asked, tapping Obiora's back. No, Obiora said, between coughs. He looked proud. Well done. Imana, you know sucking fuel is a skill you need this day. Father Amadi said. His wry smile did little to mar the perfect clear smoothness of his feature. Auntie Ifeoma came out dressed in a plain black bauble. She wore no shiny lipstick and her lips looked chapped. She hugged Father Amadi. Thank you, Father. I can drive you to Abba later this afternoon, after my office hour. No, Father. Thank you. I will go with Obiora. Auntie Ifeoma drove with Obiora in the front seat, and Father Amadi left soon after. Chima went upstairs to the neighbor's flat. Amaka went into her room and turned on her music high enough that I heard it clearly from the veranda. I could tell a cultural conscious musician apart now. I could distinguish the pure tones of Oyeka Owenu, the brash power of Fela, the soothing wisdom of Osadebe. Jaja was in the garden with Auntie Ifeoma's shears, and I sat with the book I was almost finished reading, watching him. He held the shears with both hands above his head, clipping away. Do you think we are abnormal? I asked in a whisper. Guinea, Amaka said we are abnormal. Jaja looked at me, then away, towards the line of garage in the front yard. What does abnormal mean? He asked. A question that did not need or want an answer, and then went back to trimming the plant. Auntie Ifeoma came back in the afternoon, when the buzz of a bee around the garden was almost lulling me to sleep. Obiora helped Papa-Unukwa out of the car. Papa-Unukwa leaning against him as they walked into the flat. Amaka ran out and pressed her side lightly to Papa-Unukwa's. His eyes drooped. His lids looked as though they had weights placed on them. But he smiled and said something that made Amaka laugh. Papa-Unukwa, no, I said. Kambili, he said weakly. Auntie Ifeoma wanted Papa-Unukwa to lie down on Amaka's bed, but he said he preferred the floor. The bed was too springy. Obiora and Jaja dressed the spare mattress and placed it on the floor, and Auntie Ifeoma helped Papa-Unukwa lower himself onto it. His eyes closed almost at once, although the lid of his going blind eye remained slightly open, as if he were stealing a peek at all of us from the land of tired, his sleep. He seemed taller lying down, occupied the length of the mattress, and I remember what he had said about simply reaching out to pluck icheku from the tree in his youth. The only icheku tree I had seen was huge, with branches gracing the roof of a duplex. Still, I believe Papa-Unukwa that he had simply raised his hand to pluck the black icheku pods from the branches. I will make ofe nsala for dinner. Papa-Unukwa likes that. Amaka said, I hope he will eat it. Chinyelu said, even water has been hard for him to take in the last 2 days. Auntie Ifeoma was watching Papa-Unukwa. She bent and flicked gently at the rough white calluses on his feet. Narrow line ran across the soles like cracks in the wall. Will you take him to the medical center today or tomorrow morning, Mom? Amaka asked. Have you forgotten, Marozi, that the doctor went on strike just before Christmas? I called Dr. Undoma before I left, though, and he said he will come by this evening. Dr. Undoma lived on Margaret Cartwright Avenue 2, down the street, in one of the duplexes with beware of dog signs and wide lawns. He was director of the medical center, Amaka told Jaja and me, as he watched him get out of his red Peugeot 504 a few hours later. But since the doctor's strike had started, he had run a small clinic in town. The clinic was cramped, Amaka said. She had got a chloroquine injection there the last time she had malaria, and the nurse had boiled water on a smoky kerosene stove. Amaka was pleased that Dr. Undoma had come to the house. The fumes alone in the stuffy clinic could choke Papa-Unukwa, she said. Dr. Undoma had a permanent smile plastered on his face, as though he would break bad news to a patient with a smile. He hugged Amaka and they shook hands with Jaja and me. Amaka followed him into her bedroom to look at Papa-Unukwa. Papa-Unukwa is so skinny now, Jaja said. We are sitting side by side on the veranda. The sun had fallen and there was a light breeze. Many of the children from the flat were playing football in the compound. From a flat upstairs, an adult yelled, Neaya, if you children make patches on the garage wall with that ball, I will cut off your ears. The children laughed as the football hit the garage walls. The dust-covered ball left the walls polka-dotted brown. Do you think Papa will find out? I asked. What? I laced my fingers together. How could Jaja not know what I meant? That Papa-Unukwa is here with us in the same house. I don't know. Jaja's tone made me turn and stare at him. His brows were not knotted in worry, as I was sure mine were. Did you tell Auntie Ifeoma about your finger? I asked. I should not have asked. I should have let it be. But there, it was out. It was only when I was alone with Jaja that the bubbles in my throat let my words come out. She asked me, and I told her. He was tapping his foot on the veranda floor in an energetic rhythm. I stared at my hands, at the short nails that Papa used to cut to a chafing shortness. When I would sit between his legs and his cheek would brush mine gently until I was old enough to do it myself, and I always cut them to a chafing shortness too. Had Jaja forgotten that we never told, that there was so much that we never told? When people asked, he always said his finger was something that had happened at home. That way, it was not a lie, and it let them imagine some accident, perhaps involving a heavy door. I wanted to ask Jaja why he had told Auntie Ifeoma, but I knew there was no need to, that this was one question he did not know the answer to. I watched him walk into the flat. He had never washed a car at home. His shoulders seemed broader, and I wondered if it was possible for a teenager's shoulder to broaden in a week. The mid-breeze was heavy with the smell of dust and the bruised leaves Jaja had cut. From the kitchen, the spices in Amaka's offensala tickled my nose, and I realized then that Jaja had been tapping his feet to the beat of an Igbo song that Auntie Ifeoma and my cousin sang at evening rosary. I was still sitting on the veranda reading when Dr. Ndoma left. He talked and laughed as Auntie Ifeoma walked him to his car, telling her how tempted he was to ignore the patients waiting in his clinic so he could take her up on her offer of dinner. That soup smells like something Amaka washed her hands well to cook, he said. Auntie Ifeoma came to the veranda and watched him drive off. Thank you, ma, she called out to Jaja, who was cleaning a car parked in front of the flat. I had never heard her call Jaja Inam my father. It was what she sometimes called her sons. Jaja came up to the veranda. It is nothing, Auntie. He lifted his shoulder as he stood there, like someone proudly wearing clothes that were not in size. What did the doctor say? He wants us to get some tests done. I will take your Papa-Unukwa to the medical center tomorrow. At least the labs there are still open. Auntie Ifeoma took Papa-Unukwa to the University Medical Center in the morning and came back shortly afterwards. Her mouth set in a full pout. The lab staff was on strike too, so Papa-Unukwa could not have the test done. Auntie Ifeoma stared at the middle distance and said she would have to find a private lab in town, and in a lower voice said the private lab jacked up their fees so much that a simple typhoid fever test cost more than the medicine for the fever. She would have to ask Dr. Ndoma if she really had to have all the tests done. She would not have paid a kobo at the medical center. At least there was still that benefit to being a lecturer. She left Papa-Unukwa to rest and went out to buy the medicine that Dr. Ndoma had prescribed, worrying lines etched in her forehead. That evening, though Papa-Unukwa felt well enough to get up for dinner, and the knots on Auntie Ifeoma's face losing a little, we had leftover ofensala and gari pounded to a sticky softness by Obiora. Eating gari at night is not right, Amaka said, but she was not scoring as she usually did when she complained. Instead, she had said she had a fresh smile that showed the gap in her teeth. The smile she seemed to always have when Papa-Unukwa was arrived. It rests heavy in your stomach when you eat at night. Papa-Unukwa's clocked. What did our fathers eat at night in their time? They ate pure cassava. Gari is for you modern ones. It does not even have the flavor of pure cassava. But you have to eat all of yours anyway. Auntie Ifeoma reached out and plucked a morsel from Papa-Unukwa's gari She dug a hole in it with one finger, inserted a white medicine tablet, and then molded the muzzle into a smooth ball. She placed it on Papa-Unukwa's plate. She did the same with 4 other tablets. He will not take the medicine unless I do this, she said in English. He said tablets are bitter, but you should taste the kola nut he chewed happily. They taste like bai. My cousins laugh. Morality, as well as the sense of taste. His relative, Obira, said, "Hey, what are you saying about me?" Papa-Unukwa asked. "Inayi, I want to see you swallow them." Auntie Ifeoma said. Papa-Unukwa dutifully picked up each molded muzzle, dunked it in soup, and swallowed. When the 5 were gone, Auntie Ifeoma asked him to drink some water so the tablets could break down, and started to help his body heal. He took a gulp of water and set the glass down. When you become old, they treat you like a child, he muttered. Just then, the TV made a scratchy sound like pouring dry sand on paper, and the light went off. A blanket of darkness covered the room. "Hey," Amaka groaned, "this is not a good time for NEPA to take light. I wanted to watch something on TV." Obira moved through the darkness to the 2 kerosene lamps that stood at the corner of the room and lit them. I smelled the kerosene fumes almost immediately. They made my eyes watered and my throat itch. "Papa-Unukwa, tell us a folk story." Then, just like we do in Aba, Obira said, "It is better than TV anyway." "Odima, but first, you have not told me how those people in TV climbed into it." My cousins laughed. It was something Papa-Unukwa said often to make them laugh. I could tell from the way they started to laugh even before he finished speaking. "Tell us the story of why the tortoise has a cracked shell." Chima peeped up. "I would like to know why the tortoise features so much in our people's story," Obira said in English. "Tell us the story of why the tortoise has a cracked shell," Chima repeated. Papa-Unukwa cleared his throat. "Long ago, when animals talk and lizards were few, there was a big famine in the land of the animals. Farms dried up and the soil cracked. Hunger killed many of the animals, and the one left behind did not even have the strength to dance the morning dance at funerals. One day, all the male animals had a meeting to decide what could be done before hunger wiped out the whole village. They all staggered to the meeting, bony and weak. Even lion's roar was now like the whine of a mouse. Tortoise could hardly carry his shell. It was only dog that looked well. His fur shone with good health, and you could not see the bones under his skin because they were padded with flesh. The animals all asked dog how he remained so well in the midst of famine. "I have been eating feces like I always do," dog answered. The other animals used to laugh at dog because he and his family were known to eat feces. None of the other animals could imagine themselves eating feces. Lion took control of the meeting and said, "Since we cannot eat like dog, we must think of a way to feed ourselves." The animals thought long and hard until Rabbit suggested that all animals kill their mothers and eat them. Many of the animals disagree with this. They still remember the sweetness of their mother's breast milk. But finally, they all agreed that it was the best alternative, since they will all die anyway if nothing was done. "I could never eat mommy," Chima said, giggling. "It might not be a good idea, that tough skin," Obira said. "The mother did not mind being sacrificed," Papa-Unukwa continued. And so each week, a mother was killed, and the animals shared the meat. Soon they were all looking well again. Then a few days before it was time for Dog's mother to be killed, Dog ran out wailing the morning song for his mother. She had died of the... He stopped to ease himself near a bush, but because the bush was withered, it did not give good cover. He was able to see across the bush, and he saw Dog looking up and singing. Tortoise wondered if perhaps dog's grief had made him go mad. Why was dog singing to the sky? Tortoise listened and heard what dog was singing. Ine, mother, mother. In Jemaze, my cousin's chorus. Ine, I have come. In Jemaze, Ine, let down the rope, I have come. In Jemaze, Tortoise came out and then challenged Dog. Dog admitted that his mother had not really died, that she had gone to the sky, where she lived with wealthy friends. It was because she fed him daily from the sky that he looked so well. Abomination. Tortoise bellowed. So much for eating fishes. Wait until the rest of the villagers hears what you have done. Of course, Tortoise was as corny as always. He had no intention of telling the village. He knew that Dog would offer to take him to the sky too. When Dog did, Tortoise pretended to think about it before accepting. But saliva had already started to run down his cheeks. Dog sang the song again, and a rope descended from the sky, and the two animals went up. Dog's mother was not pleased that her son had brought a friend, but she served them anyway. Tortoise ate like an animal with no home training. He ate almost all the fufu and onugbu soup, and poured a full horn of palm wine down his throat when his mouth was full of food. After the meal, they descended the rope. Tortoise told Dog he would tell no one as long as Dog took him to the sky every day, until the rains came and the famine ended. Dog agreed. What else could he do? The more Tortoise ate in the sky, the more he wanted, until one day he decided that he will go to the sky by himself, so that he will get to eat Dog's portion as well as his. He went to the spot by the dry bush and started singing, mimicking Dog's voice. The rope started to fall. Just then, Dog came by and saw what was happening. Furious, Dog started to sing loudly. Ine, mother, mother. In Jemaze, my cousin chorused. Ine, it is not your son coming up. In Jemaze, Ine, call the rope. It is not your son coming up. It is the cunning tortoise. In Jemaze, right away. Dog's mother called the rope, and Tortoise, already halfway to the sky, came hurtling down. Tortoise fell on a pile of stones and cracked his shell. To this day, Tortoise has a cracked shell. Chima cuttled. The tortoise has a cracked shell. Don't you wonder how only Dog's mother got up to the sky in the first place? Obiora asked in English. Or who the wealthy friends in the sky were? Amaka said. Probably Dog's ancestors. Obiora said. My cousin and Jaja laughed, and Papa-Unukwa laughed too, a gentle chuckle, as if he had understood the English, then leaned back and closed his eyes. I watched them and wished I had joined in chanting the Njemaze response. Chapter 9. Papa-Unukwa had woken up before everyone else. He wanted to have breakfast sitting on the veranda to watch the morning sun. And so Auntie Ifeoma asked Obiora to spread the mat on the veranda, and we all sat and had breakfast with Papa-Unukwa, listening to him talk about the men who tapped palm wine in the village, how they left at dawn to climb up the palm trees because the tree gave sour wine after the sun rose. I could tell that he missed village, that he missed seeing those palm trees the men climbed, with a raffia belt encircling them and the tree trunk. Although we had bread and okpa and bonfita for breakfast, Auntie Ifeoma made a little fufu to bury Papa-Unukwa tablet in, soft spherical coffins that she carefully watched Papa-Unukwa swallow. The cloud had lifted from her face. It will be fine, she said in English. Soon, he will start nagging about wanting to go back to the village. He must stay for a while, Amaka said. maybe he should live here. Mom, I don't think that girl Chinyelu takes proper care of him. Igasikwa, he will never agree to live here. When will you take him to do the test? Tomorrow. Dr. Indoma said, I can have 2 tests done instead of all 4. The private labs in turn always want full payment. So I